Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Tyvis Powell, Jason Lloyd. Plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
Welcome into a Wednesday edition of the ultimate Cleveland sports show. Mikey McNuggets joined by Earl the Pearl, Jason Lloyd. We got Anthony Antonelli and Director Steve behind the glass. This kind of feels like a behind the glass episode with special guest Jason Lloyd. So Jason, welcome to the Producers Club.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
It's
Honored.
BTG on steroids.
Exactly. The good kind, though.
Yeah.
Not the Tristan Thompson, like We're talking the true
we got that cream.
Berry bonds.
We got that cream.
The cream in the clear.
Juice. Like there's no point in half-ass juice.
They won't catch us.
Yeah, I don't think they don't drug test producers, at least for that. Other stuff, yeah, you did have to pass a drug test to be part of the UCSS workforce. But happy
Really?
to have
I didn't get drug tested.
You're a contracted freelance employee.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
If you're a full-time employer, you do have to get drug tested and go through a background check and all the normal stuff that you do for most employees.
I guess I'm staying as a contract employee. I'm kidding.
Jason, shout out to your son AJ for getting his first sack last night. Big
First
time.
sack, yeah.
Yep.
Same before the show. He looks like a dude out there now. And he's like, last year's his first year playing football, so he's still raw. He's still figured some things out. But he looks like a dude out there. So
How did he feel after the fact?
He really good. Yeah, he gave like the celebration, like the Hulk celebration.
It's just gonna breed more confidence.
Yeah,
more
I think
sacks
so.
to come this
Yeah.
season. That's all.
My oldest son was working on a sack dance with him of how to celebrate. I'm like, let's just settle down, please. Let's worry about the feet.
I like the confidence. You have to have a prepared sack dance, just like a touchdown. If I ever score an NFL touchdown, which I know I never will, I know exactly what I'm going to do.
What is it?
I
I'm
can't
just
tell y'all.
curious.
No, I can't tell y'all.
Because there's still a chance that you're going to score a touchdown.
I'm just saying, if it ever happens, I have it prepared. If I pimp a home run in the softball game this Sunday, I have a home run, like a bat flip, ready to go. You have to be ready, because if you do it spontaneously and it sucks, that lives in infamy forever. There's too many cameras in today's world not to be prepared.
I'm telling Jay to purposely walk you every time you're up.
I mean, that fence is like 500 feet, and we're hitting a softball. There's not a chance in hell we are getting close to hitting a home run. No. Maybe Tyvis.
No.
Which, by the way, the package is done and edited. We're just waiting for Jay to get back from vacation. We mentioned it yesterday, but it is officially complete, finito, ready to rock. So members, it'll come out to you guys a day early once Jay gets back into the fold. And we got a big show on tap for you guys today. Yeah. We got Aditi Kinkhabwala, one of our favorites, who is testing out new equipment that should make her Zoom stream actually work. Can you guys imagine Aditi, who doesn't freeze in the middle of every answer, and we can hear and have a legitimate back and forth? Like, thrilled to hopefully have Aditi on.
Or it won't work at all.
With great connection, or
we'll
it's going to be a
for
complete catastrophe, and we'll have to say thank you, but no thank you to Aditi. We're going to talk about some NBA trades over the last decade, Jason, that Bleacher Report went back and regraded. The biggest blockbuster deals of the decade. How do they look a few years in hindsight?
Yeah.
We have a Guardians win last night that was chaotic and crazy. We have some social media rumors that could be tying a big-time, legitimate star to the Cleveland Browns. We'll talk about the backup quarterback situation and what's more likely that Earl came up with that is essentially like choosing. Well, we'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that. Earl, if you want to.
It's one of those. You know how it's like a Dr. Dre type thing when you produce a segment that you're on. So we'll see how this turns.
All right.
So we'll have some fun with that. And Steve, how you guys doing back there this morning?
We're doing all right. We're skeptical about the Aditi equipment, but we're hopeful.
Awesome. And last thing before we hop into today's show, we mentioned yesterday that we are adding 2 members to the UCSS fantasy group this season. If you want to have a chance to be one of those 2 fans in the UCSS Fantasy League, you have to be a member. If you are a member, scroll down in the members only community tab. It's like 3 or 4 posts down, but there is a post where you leave a comment. Tell us why you deserve to be the 11th and 12th member of the UCSS Fantasy League. And tomorrow we are going to read those comments, pick our favorites, and we will add 2 people to the UCSS Fantasy League to hopefully take down Tyvis, Bull, Earl, Jason, myself, and everyone else.
Now I got a question on that.
Shoot.
How long before this contest closes? Because we need to get this draft order together so we can start a mock draft. And I mean, Andrew Berry even had 3 or 4 months. We need some time. The season is 2 weeks away.
We're picking tomorrow. So after tomorrow morning tonight's the cutoff essentially, because if it's not in by tomorrow morning, unfortunately you're out. We are going to pick. We're going to blur out the names so there's no bias, there's no favoritism. We're purely picking our 2 favorite comments from the group.
I got a theory about last year. So last year, Mike drafted 1 position ahead of me. So it's a snake draft. And I remember doing all my draft prep and getting everything together.
Oh, get out of here. I know what you're going to say.
I must have left my computer open when I came downstairs, because when we drafted, he literally took every single player that was on my board Like, coming both ways, it was ridiculous. I had the worst fantasy season that I've had in a very long time. But redemption is everything, man.
If it makes you feel better, I was in first place till literally the last week of the playoffs, and then my team put together back-to-back the worst weeks I've had and lost in the first round.
No,
of the playoffs,
Bull
so
finished ahead of me, so that'll never
that does
make
suck.
me.
Yeah, that sucks.
I had our guy draft for me the last couple of years, and now he's no longer with us.
That's a good thing,
And you
too.
auto-picked Nick,
That's a good thing.
Nick Chubb in like the second round.
Yeah, what happened with that? I couldn't figure out.
You were texting your guy and you took too long.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I was Yeah, that's exactly what happened, and then automatically give me Chubb.
So
But yeah, now he's not with us anymore, so I got to find another draft expert to draft for me at the Athletic.
I've been trying to auction off my spot in the league for like weeks, and nobody will take it. So
I just don't have time, man. I don't mess with fantasy
real
stuff.
quick. Remember Haagen-Dazs?
Yeah, you said that before
I
the
know,
show, and
but-
you got us excited because we thought you were talking about ice cream.
No. Froholt is his actual name. Bull called him Haagen-Dazs. He filled in
Yeah.
for the Browns offensive
Yeah.
line the year Deshaun was suspended in 22. He just signed a $12 million contract with the Arizona Cardinals.
What?
Are you
$12
serious?
million. Look at the Browns' carousel of guys right now. And Haagen-Dazs, Froholt is his real name, just signed a 2-year, $12 million extension with the Arizona Cardinals. So
$850,000 guaranteed.
no, $8 million guaranteed.
No, I'm kidding.
That's crazy.
Incredible. So from literally nowhere to something, shout out to you, Haagen-Dazs. And Haagen-Dazs, if you're watching, we would love you to sponsor the Ultimate Cleveland Sports
The
Show.
real Haagen-Dazs.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
real Haagen-Dazs. We will make every topic something ice cream related.
Mike's
And
talking
we'll
about
do ice cream.
Haagen-Dazs before the show, and Earl and I thought he was actually talking about like ice cream. We're
I
getting
do love
excited.
Haagen-Dazs.
Yeah, we looked at each other like, we got
We
a
gotta
new
get-
sponsor?
We got to get Mitchell's as a sponsor.
Yeah, we do.
That has to be a sponsor.
We
All right,
do.
Steve Becker, work on getting Mitchell's. And let's do a read and let's talk about that crazy Guardians win from last night.
yeah, guys, you've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Well, we have something different for you today. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of Sunday NFL Ticket through YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, if you have a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to download America's #1 sportsbook.
So if you guys went to bed at a normal hour, you missed a crazy, chaotic ending to the Guardians-Yankees game last night. The Yankees took an early 2-0 lead on back-to-back home runs off Matthew Boyd in the first. The Guardians fought their way back. There were plays at the plate. There was great defensive plays, and then some great bullpen pitching until the 12th inning where the Guardians put a 5 spot on the board, ended up beating the Yankees 9-5. Or was it a 6 spot?
It was a 5 spot.
Well, they ended up beating the Yankees 9-5. Earl, you talk about a game that had some ups, some downs. We saw the good part of Matthew Boyd. We saw the bad part of Matthew Boyd. We saw a great bullpen performance. At the end of the day, that was a hell of a win by the Cleveland Guardians to knock off the Yankees in the Bronx in 12 innings with that kind of heroic and clutch hitting we saw late in the game.
It was a fun game to watch. Like, them janky-ass Yankees, right? Anytime you can beat the Yankees, like, that's a good thing, man. Bleep the Yankees. Like,
Especially in New York.
Especially in New York, right? You send them home late night, like, miserable as hell because they stayed there all game and they got outslugged by the Cleveland Guardians. You got all those big bats in the lineup. You know, Matthew Boyd came out there early. It looked like it was going to be a long night. You give up back-to-back home runs to Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. Like, that's usually tough to overcome. But, you know, outside of leaving 20 men on base, the Guardians outplayed New York for the majority of the game. They out-hit New York. New York had more home runs, but they came to play. You know, solid bullpen outing. I thought it was fun, and it was important to bounce back after getting swept by Milwaukee, throw some runs on the board. You get game one. Now I think it's imperative to go out there and actually win this series now.
And it's Cantillo versus Nestor Cortez today on the mound for Cleveland and the Yankees, a lefty-on-lefty matchup. Jason, what'd you take away from last night's extra innings win over New York?
Lane Thomas has a pulse.
Let's go.
Finally.
Let's go.
It's been a miserable start for him. Obviously, he had the big hit to really start to break the thing open, and then David Fry came up with the bases clearing hit. Soto, I thought, should have come up with that catch. That looked like a lackadaisical effort at best from him in right field. Guardians probably win that game anyway, although you don't feel as good with the 2-run lead. And Barlow gave up 2. You know, you had the Yankees coming up at the top of the order that next inning. But a huge win, and coupled with the fact that The Twins would look like they were in control of their game last night, and they blew it late to the Padres. So you gain a game on them. So there you see it 3.5 on both the Twins and the Royals. Huge to start that series. It's a big series in New York. I mean, the Guardians have the best record in the American League. It's by 1 percentage point, but they have the best record in the American League. For as much as we've poo-pooed them the last couple of weeks on how aggravating it was to watch them in Milwaukee, and it's hard to get a read on these guys sometimes. There's so many holes in the lineup. They have the best record in the American League. So ultimately, you can't really be that upset with them.
I called them cockroaches yesterday in the best way, Jason. Well, after the first inning and Matthew Boyd gives up back-to-back homers to Soto and Judge, you're like, well, they're dead. But no, they're not. And the best part about last night's game was the Guardians continue to find ways to win that are the little aspects of the game. Base running, fielding, and the bullpen. The three things that aren't the sexy things you talk about. It's usually hitting home runs in your lineup, your starting rotation. Well, the Guardians, they can pitch. They certainly can hit. But last night, you talk about base running. In the third inning, Noel, the slide around the catcher's tag to score the first run of the game, got initially called out. Stephen Vogt challenges. He ends up sliding his mitt just across the plate before he gets tagged. An excellent slide. That leads to the first run of the game. Fast forward later in the game, I believe it was the 8th inning, when Trent Grisham's pinch running for the Yankees. Their pinch hitter, Austin Wells, hits it off the top of the fence. Grisham, and then I sent you the tag board for it if you want to play it. But Grisham, I mean, that's absolutely horrific base running. He gets gunned out on the plate by a throw from Roku. That wasn't even a good throw, but Bo Naylor makes a terrific play. Watch Grisham here. This ball was 3 inches away from being a 2-run shot. He's limping, jogging around, makes a terrible turn at third. He ends up getting gunned out. That's a 2-run difference. If he scores here, good chance the Yankees end up winning that game. You talk about in the field, Daniel Schneemann makes an incredible diving catch in center field to start off the 7th inning. That would have put a runner at least on second base with no outs for the top of their lineup. And then you mentioned the Soto play in extra innings. Yeah, there's a good chance they still win the game, Jason, if Soto makes that catch. But you go from Schneemann going full extension for a terrific play in center field to Soto, I don't want to call it a lazy play, but kind of lazily ran past that fly ball. And then the bullpen was terrific again. I've said it before. I'll say it again. The Guardians' bullpen is the single best weapon in all of baseball. There's not a lineup. There's not a rotation. There's not a single unit in Major League Baseball that's better than the Guardians' bullpen. And shout out to Clase, who went 2 innings last night. And it's the little things. It's all the little things this team does that have them with the best record in the American League right now. In all of baseball.
Stephen Vogt has alluded to that time in and time out, that when this team is playing well, it's because they're doing all the little things right. And even when things are not going well throughout the course of a game, if you can continue to just stay consistent with doing those little things, then eventually breaks will go your way. And that's what makes the game of baseball fun. I think at one point the Guardians was like 2 for 17 or something like that with runners in scoring position. And so, like, if you looked at how the game was playing out, you wouldn't have seen the 12th inning coming, right? And not only did they put the go-ahead run on the board, but understanding that you're going against the New York Yankees, and you add on and add on and add on to make sure you can secure that victory. It goes back to what you said. It starts with the little things, the fielding, the base running, right? Just the understanding the nuances of the game. And if you can stay consistent with those, and that's when the Guardians are at their best. You know, we might not do everything great, but we do so many things so well that if we can just continue to lock in on that, we'll do it. We'll take care of our business and, you know, do everything that we're trying to do.
And you know, I said multiple times, I have no faith in Matthew Boyd. But to get as far as he got last night after the start that he got
5
off
and
to,
a third, right?
Yeah, you get into the 6th inning in Yankee Stadium against that lineup, that's a win for him. And yeah, he gave the 3 runs, but after the first inning, after you get through Soto and Judge, settled down a little bit, some command issues, but hey, if you get that every time out from Matthew Boyd,
run to the bank.
I'll take it.
Yeah, you got to.
If you get him into the 6th inning and you hold a team to 3 runs and you give your offense and your bullpen a chance, that's all you can ask from him. So as far as I'm concerned, you're 2 for 2 with Matthew Boyd.
And the most impressive part of Boyd, and you touched on it earlier, that first inning could have been a catastrophe.
Yeah.
It could have.
I mean, seriously, you give up a home run to Juan Soto, only hit 340 feet. It wasn't like it was an absolute rocket shot, but it's a home run. You follow that up, okay, you give up a home run, no biggie. Calm down, let's get the next guy out. Aaron Judge sends one 375 feet into right center. At that point, it could completely unravel. We're talking about Matthew Boyd here. It's not Tanner Bybee. It's not prime CeCe Sabathia. It's Matt freaking Boyd. And from that point, Jason, he had 1 out, allowed 2 runs. He pitched 5 innings of 1-run baseball after that.
Yeah.
You can't ask for much more, and it continues. We said it before. It's worth continuing again. The Guardians find ways to wring every ounce of talent and production, more on the pitching side than the hitting side, from essentially anyone they bring into that clubhouse. It's incredible.
Just think about it. You know, you're bottom of the first inning. You're in New York. It's not just the fact that you gave up back-to-back home runs, but your psyche plays on the fact of who you gave up those back-to-back home runs to. And so if you look at you giving up home runs to Soto and Judge in New York in the bottom of the first inning, it's like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and it didn't go left. It could have easily went left. He found a way to kind of like manage and get through it, and the bullpen showed up. But the Guardians put some runs on the board, and that was missing. And to see them come through in the clutch when you got 0 hits from Quan, you didn't get a hit from Naylor. Jose went 1 for 6, but his hit came in the most clutch situation. David Fry with the pinch hit, 3-run triple, things like that. It was just timely hitting and just staying consistent with it and getting that dub. It was huge. It was huge.
Curious to see tonight. Cantillo, obviously both bullpens are taxed. I don't know if you'll see a move today. I don't know that necessarily they need to make a move, but they definitely need to get a little bit of length out of Cantillo tonight. And the Yankees exhausted their entire bullpen last night, too. They had nobody left by the end of the game. I have no use for Nestor Cortez. I think he's trash. I think he's a joke. And he's a janky pitcher who uses nonsense tactics because his stuff ain't good enough, as far as I'm concerned.
Jason, I'm curious. Back to the boys. Keeping his composure in the capacity
he's
did
a veteran.
last night.
Yeah.
How much is that player versus manager and pitching coach kind of settling it? And what have you heard this season in terms of Stephen Vogt's, and obviously he's a catcher, so he has more insight into that relationship and how to do that than most managers.
Yeah.
How has he kind of handled all this change in the staff, but keeping them kind of all even keel and on the same temperament, good or bad?
I think they relied on Carl Willis a lot.
Carl Willis.
Just for the entire season. That's why it was so important for him to come back. And there was a moment, I think, after last season ended, to hear Carl tell it, he was always coming back. To hear the Guardian side of it, they were concerned. They weren't sure if he would follow Tito out the door and if he would retire or if he would come back. And he has been such an important figure, even going back to when I was out there in spring training and how everyone was looking to Carl because most of these guys were new in their position, and he was the one guy who knew how things ran. And obviously this is an organization that knows pitching, that knows how to squeeze every ounce of talent out of what you give them. We've seen it time and again. We've seen it with Ben Lively. Now you're seeing it with Matthew Boyd. And Boyd's a veteran. He's been around. And he's not going to get rattled. He's pitched in Yankee Stadium plenty of times before. I'm sure he's been hit hard in Yankee Stadium plenty of times before. But to see him bear down, and to see him hang in there, and to see him pitch into the 6th was it was huge. So hopefully that can continue. That's all they need. How many times I sat here and said, I'm worried about October, set this thing up for October. You're going to get to October. I don't know if Matthew Boyd's going to play an important role for you in October, but he's going to eat a lot of innings over the next 5 to 6 weeks to get you to that point, and that's all they need. They need someone to give this bullpen a relief every now and then. If you can get him, I'll take 5. You can get 5 out of him, that's a win every time.
And we've talked about this bullpen. I keep saying it's the single best unit in baseball. You look at the guys they pitched last night. They had more arms to go to if the game continued. And you look at the Yankees, who they're literally separated by half a game for the best record in the American League. The Yankees bullpen was over, done, finito. They had nobody left.
Yeah.
They started pitching, and I mean this respectfully because I can't pitch. They were throwing bums out there. It was the bottom of their barrel in terms of their bullpen of who they had left had the game gone to the 13th, 14th, 15th inning. The Guardians had 3 or 4 more guys who they could have put out there, and I would have said, yeah, he's going to shut them down. Yeah. I feel pretty damn good about that situation.
They had 2 left. They had Avila, and I forget who the other one was, because Avila was up warming.
He was warming up, and I'm fine with it.
And there was one other one, too, that they had left. But you're right, the Yankees
were done.
I forgot the guy's name. Tonkin or whoever
Tonkin came in at the end.
That was their
last pitcher.
He was going to finish it out for them.
And that's my point. This bullpen only needs the starter. If he could get 5, I feel so confident in this bullpen shutting down the rest of the game in the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, and the 9th. with any combination of the 6th, 7th, and 8th, leading to Class A in the 9th, you can mix and match however you want, Stephen Vogt. All those guys are good enough to, on any given night against any given lineup, shut down the opponent. And that's such a luxury that most teams across baseball, maybe not a single other team across Major League Baseball, has, that Stephen Vogt has in his back pocket on any given night.
Just think about it like this, right? For the Guardians, it's typically a race to 3 to 5 runs. If the Guardians can get the 3 to 5 runs before you 9 times out of 10, you're probably not going to beat us, right? Because of how we play, because we have that bullpen. And looking ahead to tonight's matchup, I think tonight's game is going to be important to try to jump out and get an early lead. You know, you talked about Cantillo. Like, talk about your welcome to the show. You get the Phillies, the Orioles, the Twins, and then the Yankees, right?
That's a good point.
So, you know, somehow, some way, if he can just manage through, you know, like Jason said with Boyd, even him, just give us 5 innings, right? Give us 5 innings, but this is going to be one of those games to where you're going to depend on the offense to put some runs on the board early so that you can, one, save your bullpen, but you're going to need some help from this kid. Hopefully he can manage. You know, it's going to be tough for him. So
it'll be interesting. You know, we talked about Matt Boyd keeping his composure after giving up those 2 home runs in the first. If that was Cantillo, who knows how a rookie pitching in Yankee Stadium for the first time reacts to that situation. And Jason, I don't know enough about Cantillo to make any kind of educated guess on how he would handle that. But has he pitched in pressure situations in college? Was he a kid who came straight out of high school? What's his background in terms of these pressure-packed pitching situations he may have faced up until this point of his career?
I mean, nothing like what he's going to face if he stays in this rotation down the stretch. This will probably be the biggest test he's had to this point, pitching in Yankee Stadium. I was actually just looking for an off day to see when they can catch their breath a little bit. They don't have an off day until next Thursday, a week from tomorrow. So they're going hard for the next 7 days. So Joey today, Gavin tomorrow. You know, we saw Gavin he got hit around pretty good against Milwaukee, and you want to see how he bounces back tomorrow against Garrett Cole. But you're right. Like, 2 things can be true. If you get 5 innings out of Joey, just like you got 5 out of Matthew Boyd, you take that and you run with it. It's just the fact that it was an extra inning game kind of gasses you a little bit.
Yeah.
And you don't expect to play, especially with baseball's new rules, you don't expect to play that long every night. So I guess it's Gavin. Gavin's the one that you got to try and get some length from tomorrow. You can't expect Joey Cantillo to walk into Yankee Stadium and pitch into the 6th or 7th inning more than likely. I don't even know if Gavin's going to do that. But they are going to have to catch a break here at some point because they don't have another off day until Thursday. And
Class A pitched 2 last night.
Yeah,
so I'm assuming,
he's probably down today.
Yeah, I'm assuming he's not going to go today.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's the first time I think Zach Meisel tweeted. First time he's gone more than 3 outs in 73 appearances.
Which tells you what that game meant to Stephen Vogt.
He managed that like a playoff game, like everything was on the line. And frankly, I love that from Stephen Vogt.
Yeah.
Like,
it's
I know
necessary at this time of
Yeah,
year.
I know you can't do it a night in and night out, and not every game can be managed like that, but I like how he kind of picks and chooses certain games on the schedule that he says, we're all in today. Like this matters for one reason or another. This matters, and we're going to do everything in our power to try and take home a dub.
Well, not only are you getting close to September, but this is obviously a huge series this is not a division rival, but this is a team you're going up against for the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
So this is a really important series. So, yeah, you have to manage these games like they're playoff games because in a sense they are. And you'll get some breaks in the schedule. You don't have to manage every game like this over the next 5 weeks. There'll be some gaps in some teams coming up here where you can sort of take a break a little bit and not have to worry about throwing Class A 2 innings. But in instances like this, yeah, you play to win the game because you don't know how a win on August 20th could affect the standings on September 30th.
Not just that, but, you know, I'm looking at the American League standings right now, and it's Cleveland, Baltimore, the Yankees, the Twins, and Kansas City. And so to your point, you know, when you find yourself in a series against these opponents, these are the times to where, okay, let me manage this like this is a playoff atmosphere. It's going to build confidence in my young guys. It can help you at the end of the season when it comes down to the division standings, but it can also get you prepared for October when you meet up with one of these teams again. Interesting, as I'm looking at this, I don't think none of us thought that at this point, when you look at the top of the American League, you would see 3 teams from the American League Central sitting up there in the top 5.
No.
I mean, I said the division was going to be better than people thought, and
Yeah.
I should use that as my bold prediction.
Yeah.
friggin' Tanner
You
Biden.
did tell us though, like you had me
Yeah.
thinking.
But you kept saying
he had me
Detroit,
locked
though.
in on Detroit. I was just about to say that.
Well, I did think Detroit would be better, but I thought
You
the
said the whole
division.
division. You said
the whole
as a
division would be
I thought the
competitive.
division as a whole would be
Yeah,
better than
and
people
it
thought.
has been. It has been.
Yeah.
It's been much
Absolutely.
better.
Yeah.
I mean, not Kansas City. Chicago has been significantly worse than
Yes.
even the
Yes.
lowest of expectations, but the
Yeah.
other 4 teams have been.
Yeah, Detroit
At
did
level,
flame out a little bit.
or
Torkelson
if
didn't
not
have
up,
the
yeah.
year. They had some pitchers catch injuries, I think, and
It's
yeah,
crazy too because Flaherty and Scoop have been terrific.
Yeah,
but
they
outside
have.
of those
Outside
two,
of that,
it's been absolutely nothing. Last thing on the Guardians, we'll move on and talk a little Browns here. You don't see many extra inning games go to the 12th now. Like that's kind of a rarity
I
with the
know.
runner starting on second base.
I hate that rule. I hate that rule.
Well, I want Earl to go first on this
Yeah.
because I know how you feel about it. I'm kind of torn. Depending
Mm-hmm.
on the outcome, if the Guardians lost last night, I'd probably be like, I hate that rule because they won. I kind of enjoyed the extra level of tension each inning starts with the guy on second base. Or
I hate that rule.
it made it to the 12th,
I hate it.
and you still don't like it? Okay.
I hate that rule. That rule is the stupidest rule in the world. Like you gotta earn your right to be on base, especially like if they take these same set of rules into the playoffs, and then it comes down to a situation like that in the World Series. That's a tough pill to swallow. Like to lose a game when it don't even count as an earned run. If you see
Yeah.
like the bullpen stats I did today,
It's one
like
run.
one run, one earned
Yeah.
run. Like you didn't earn that. So hell no, I don't like the rule.
Is this the playoff rule too?
No.
Right, playoffs, they go back to regular.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
And I get why they do it. Like they're trying to save bullpens. Imagine how long last night's game could have gone had they not had a runner at second. I get the logistics behind it, but you don't go to NBA games. You don't start shooting free throws to determine the winner in overtime. You don't change the rules. Like you can't play by one set of rules for 9 innings and then change it up. That's sorry, Ant. That's what soccer does. That's stupidity. 2 things I hate about soccer. You never know when the game's going to end. They just randomly blow the whistle. Extra time. Okay, now we're done here.
But it always starts on
Maxes out
time.
at 6 minutes.
And the penalty kicks. Like you just change. All right,
I love
we're just going to
penalty
go to penalty kicks
I
now.
didn't know they changed the rules in the playoffs. It's still stupid.
Yeah,
It's
if it
still
was
stupid.
playoffs, I'm anti. In the regular season, I go back and forth. Like some days I don't like it, some days I do. It just adds like an element.
The one
of,
thing I'm sorry.
It just
go
adds
ahead.
like an element of uncertainty to everything.
Yeah.
And one name we keep forgetting about in this Guardians bullpen, they still have Austin Hedges, who has a 0 ERA on the season, who if they had to go to, they can go to. So shout out to Austin Hedges. And the reason the Yankees bullpen was so decimated was Luis Heel had to come out in the 3rd inning.
Yeah.
You look at that pitching matchup on paper going into yesterday. Heel's here, Boyd's here, due to injury or whatnot. It was a perfectly even pitching matchup, and that was the reason the Yankees bullpen was just so shot come the end of the game.
The one thing that surprised me about the stupid rule putting a runner at second, I thought teams would bunt more often.
They never do.
And they really don't. And there's some instances where they do, but they just play it straight up and play it normal. And I thought when the rule was first enacted, I thought, well, this is going to bring bunting back in a big way because you're going to just bunt that guy over. And I still think they should in a lot of instances. It depends where you're at in the lineup, who's at the plate, but bunt him over with 1 out and then hit a fly ball. Like it's not as easy as it sounds, but like it gets you a run and it can get you a chance to win the game. And that part of it doesn't happen as much as I thought that it would when the rule was put in place.
And you want to talk about Rocchio's bunts real quick because he actually had.
They
had a hell of a
perfect,
game yesterday.
both of them.
Just want to say I saw this is the Cade Smith defender on Twitter tweeted this out. Juan Soto's home run 340 feet. Aaron Judge's home run 370 feet. Rocchio's home run 403 feet. Makes you think.
I told Ant.
Does he have Aaron Judge like power, Jason?
I told Ant in the chat yesterday, I said, man, I'm at the point to where I think I can count on Rocchio for a home run more than I can from Jimenez right now.
Jimenez just ain't a home run hitter.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Himmy. This is 2 years in a row, which is alarming and disturbing. I'm over the Brian Rocchio thing. Like
You're not buying the power surge?
No, enjoy your time in Cleveland because it's about up. He has the rest of this year, and
So does it matter that he hit one in Detroit or no?
no, it doesn't matter. Any baseball player can turn on one again. Bartolo Colon hit a home run.
That's true.
One in his career.
Did Tyvis though? We'll find out next week. Let's talk a little Browns here.
I'm still mad at you guys for the soccer comments, but if you're in New York, guys, and you're trying to go to see the Guardians whoop on the New York Yankees one more time tonight, cheapest dollar you can get a game time ticket for is $6 for the upper deck. Game Time, it saves you so much money. You can save up to 60% off by buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, and theater. The all-in pricing feature that you can toggle on means there's no surprise fees at checkout. You can get a panoramic view of your seat in the app before you buy it, so you know exactly where you're going. And if they have a lowest price guarantee, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference, so you never have to pay more than you actually need to pay. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but create your account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
Our next topic involves something Jason Lloyd loves to do, and that is speculate on social media rumors. It is his favorite thing in the world. Jason comes in every day and says, guys, what's the hottest rumor on Twitter? I don't check it, but I need to know because I have hot takes for it
and power
for
rankings,
days.
Power rankings and internet
Yes.
trade rumors.
So we are going to do that because where there's smoke, there might be fire, Jason. And I'm curious if the smoke we are getting from CeeDee Lamb's camp and the Cleveland Browns, if you think that's enough to indicate a fire. CeeDee Lamb made this his Instagram caption yesterday. If you're unfamiliar, this is Tobey Maguire from Spider-Man 3 wearing the black Spider-Man suit. That's also Venom. It's essentially when he turns to the bad guy. Publicly, Jerry Jones has said they have had progressive talks with CeeDee Lamb in terms of a new contract. Publicly, CeeDee Lamb has quote tweeted that and said, LOL. He has removed all following of the Dallas Cowboys from his social media accounts. And speaking of social media, some Browns fans yesterday found out that recently, CeeDee Lamb started following quite a few number of Browns players, Jason, including Elijah Moore, Amari Cooper, David Njoku, and a few others. It's also worth noting, not you, Siri, it's worth noting, Jason, go back to that Instagram post. And do you know where Spider-Man 3 was filmed, Jason? Where was this movie filmed?
Oh, I'm sorry, I just gave them the answer.
It was filmed in Cleveland.
Huh?
So, Interesting. Interesting. Brian Windhorst's meme. Very, very interesting. So, Jason, are you buying that the smoke between whatever CeeDee Lamb is doing on his social media accounts and the smoke that it could be related to the Cleveland Browns indicates there's any potential of a CeeDee Lamb trade forthcoming for Cleveland?
No. He's not a free agent. He's under contract. He's under contract. He's going to play for the Cowboys, guys. He's going to sign an extension. I'm sorry. He's not going anywhere. Jerry was foolish for saying some things that he said earlier on, but money talks, and they will come to terms on an agreement. And I thought Jerry was foolish again yesterday. He was talking about this, and he said, he's annoyed that he wants guys to play out their contract. CeeDee's under contract, he should be playing this out. And I'm paraphrasing here, but basically he said, there was a day where you played on your contract, and then you talked about your new contract. Well, that's gone, and those days are over, and guys can hold out now when they've got 1 year left and want a new deal. And that's the position we're in. They are not going to let CeeDee Lamb walk. They are not going to trade him. It will all work out. He's going to stay right where he's at. If the Cowboys want to make him available, yeah, of course the Browns should be all in. But it's a fantasy world. That's just not the world we're in. Yeah. I don't care who he follows on Instagram. He's under contract to the Cowboys.
Yo, Jerry Jones is funny, man. People be cracking me up when they want to use that old school stuff when they want to, talking about it used to be a day when players played out their contract. All right, Jerry, so go back and watch black and white TV like it was back in the day. I don't see you doing that. You ride around on billion-dollar yachts, man, watching the 100-inch flat screen. So get out of here with that. Listen, it's a pipe dream that's never going to happen, but I got a few ideas how we can make this happen. I'm currently communicating with our UCSS chat right now. We're trying to set up some travel arrangements to go down to Dallas, do what we got to do to hold Jerry Jones hostage, make our demands. I got some people saying they're willing to go to CeeDee's house, pull him out, put him in the car, fly him back to Cleveland. Or Jimmy is a boss, Andrew is a boss. I'm pretty sure somebody got some dirt on somebody to where they can go, hey, listen, you either give me CeeDee Lamb or this comes out and then your ownership stake of the Cowboys go bye-bye. Or y'all can do my favorite thing. You can do my favorite thing. Act like it's Madden, turn the trades off, and then just go get them for 3 6-round picks. And then it's over with.
I literally forgot until this exact moment. When CeeDee was coming out of Oklahoma, it was the same year a guy named Courtney Davis was coming out of Texas A&M. Davis didn't get drafted, but they were high school friends. They trained together. I went down and filmed one of CeeDee's workouts for him, and he asked me to I have CeeDee's number. Should I text him and ask him if he wants to come to Cleveland?
It's probably not the same number. I'm guessing he had to change his number when he took his phone out of his girl's hand on draft day.
And that was before that. That's a good point. That's a good point.
I'm sure that number is gone.
It's worth a try. I'll do it at the end of the show. I may burn that bridge.
But it's funny as we have fun about it. I mean, to Jason's point, one, he's under contract. And the reality of the situation is the Odell Beckham situation was rare. Like a wide receiver in his prime that has already produced like major numbers becomes available. And it's just hard. It's almost like, man, if you don't catch these guys a year after they've been franchise tagged and you throw some money at them in free agency, or better yet, luck up and draft one of these dudes, it's hard to get your hands on them. Yeah, we got Amari, but we got Amari on the backside of his prime.
Yeah.
And so, like, you know, to even think that CeeDee Lamb would ever become available, it's hard to fathom that. Crazier things that didn't happen. I don't know what the Cowboys.
Tyreek Hill was traded.
Yeah, like
Stephon Diggs was
Stephon
traded.
Diggs.
I don't know what
Devontae
the Cowboys cap situation is, but I know you got an X factor on both sides of the football that's looking to get new deals. It'll be interesting how this thing play out. I don't foresee the Browns adding a premier big-time wide receiver this year, but I do think next offseason, whether it be by trade or free agency, we are going to have a big-name wide receiver come in here and play for the Browns.
In terms of the Cowboys, they have to pay Micah Parsons, CeeDee Lamb, and Dak Prescott. Like, they all want new contracts right now. Right. Not down the road, not in 2 years. Like, this is prominent issues that Jerry Jones has to figure out. Micah Parsons wants to be the highest paid non-quarterback in the history of the NFL. CeeDee Lamb wants to be the highest paid receiver in the history of the NFL. And Dak Prescott will probably reset the quarterback market with the highest paid contract in the history of the NFL. That's a lot of money for Jerry Jones to have to pay up essentially in one offseason or whenever they figure out how to do this. And the longer he waits, the more expensive they get, which is part of the issue. Jerry Jones could have eradicated this problem in Dallas last offseason when Dak wanted a new contract. Decided to wait, let him play out. Dak balls out. Now Dak has no incentive to negotiate because he's going to be a free agent in the open market next year, and you know some team will throw him crazy amounts of money. Same with CeeDee and Micah. CeeDee's coming into the last year of his deal. I think Micah has 2 more years. But in terms of the reality of CeeDee coming to Cleveland, despite the Instagram post, despite who he follows on social media, I would move heaven, earth, and water to get him in Cleveland if it was possible. There's no way he's really available. There's just no way Dallas would trade him, especially to the team they're playing in week 1.
And man, Jason, I kind of want your rebuttal to this because, you know, when you're franchised, when you get the franchise tag, it's the average salary of the top 5 paid positions, right? So that wide receiver position, the average salary number just keep going up and up. I think Jerry Jones is playing with fire, playing with CeeDee. Because if CeeDee goes out here and has another 1,600-yard season and double-digit touchdowns, yesterday's price is not today's price. Like, whatever you was going to pay for him today, that price going to go up tomorrow. And so, like, you know, when you find yourself in these situations and you got some premier playmakers like that, you got to make some tough decisions. I mean, you clearly hit on your draft picks. You clearly did everything that you did at that said time. But, again, you was going to have to pay up.
And we talked about this earlier in the week. The Cowboys are the most valuable sports franchise in the world. They just got a Forbes evaluation of over $10 billion, and they're 30th in the NFL in cash spent on a year-to-year basis. The Browns right now are second most in the NFL. Shout out to Jimmy Haslam. Seriously, he'll pay up front. He'll give you the bonuses. He'll convert stuff over. That's how the Browns are able to kind of navigate this cap situation with so many highly priced players. They lead the NFL with players with 14 this year making $10 or more million. How do they do that? A lot of it is in signing bonuses and paid up front. Jerry Jones hasn't shown the willingness to do that despite owning the most valuable franchise in the history of the world. And it's going to come back to bite him in the ass at some point.
I know it's so many different variables that goes into having a good and successful NFL franchise and being a good owner. And I know Jimmy be catching some slack, man. But for me, I'm sorry. At the end of the day, when you got an owner that's willing to spend money on the front end, it makes Andrew Berry's job a whole lot easier. And it keeps the Browns from having to go through situations that other franchises go through. Now, will Jimmy meddle a little bit? Will he get in there and try to –
Nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect.
It's like at the end of the day, I'll take all of that, man, because all I ever hear or see from this dude is he wants to spend money, whether it be on players, a stadium, changing jerseys,
And you wanna know the
whatever
difference?
the case may be.
Here's
Like,
the difference.
sign me up for that.
Even if Jimmy meddles, at least he spends. Jerry for sure meddles,
And he ain't trying to
and
spend
he
no
ain't
money.
spending. So you can't have it both ways. We'll wrap this up with this. Would you move heaven, earth, and water to get CeeDee Lamb if he was made available?
Yes, of course.
Will he ever be made available?
No.
Feel the same way?
Absolutely.
We're all in agreement. Even though I do love him posting the Spider-Man 3 meme, which was shot in Cleveland, because it pokes all the right buttons for social media rumors.
Jerry said some foolish things over the course of this negotiation. He's often said some things that, but you know what he's brilliant at doing? We're talking about the Cowboys in Cleveland. They're talking about the Cowboys in Pittsburgh. They're talking about the Cowboys everywhere. And that's what Jerry Jones wants. He doesn't care what you say about him. Good, bad, or indifferent. You could rip him up one side and down the other. I've had people who know him very well say he is got the thickest skin they've ever been around. As long as you're talking about the Cowboys, as long as you're talking about him, that's all he cares about.
There's a show in Cincinnati right now, and their fan base and their sports media personalities are having conversations about how CeeDee is better than T. Higgins, and we could just swap them and send a draft pick and get CeeDee Lamb. So you're absolutely right. This talk is being had everywhere.
Let's be honest, the Bengals are a poverty franchise. They can afford to pay for some sort of show like UCSS. It'll never be the only.
They can't even pay the
their
phone bill to make the phone call.
They gave the kicker an extension, by the way. We never actually talked about that. But in this whole world where you're not going to pay Higgins and you're not going to pay Jamar Chase and none of these guys are getting the money they want.
They copycats. Andrew Berry give Hopkins an extension. They give they kicker an extension. And then they had the audacity to like debut some orange pants. Like,
they were ugly as hell.
Like,
too.
and y'all little bro. Like, understand y'all little bro. Y'all not big bro. I could care less about the recent success that y'all had over the last 10 years. Y'all been a poverty franchise down in the dumps just like us. Don't get it twisted.
And let's get a read. Let's talk about the backup quarterback
Screw the
situation.
Bengals.
Well, we actually don't need to do a read in between these two topics. I got into your ear, but clearly you were ignoring me.
I was talking. Sorry. Sometimes when they talk, because it all comes through one ear, it gets muddled out. But okay, Jason, we talked about this on yesterday's show that the Browns are at least willing to listen to trade offers for DTR. That was from Zach Jackson of The Athletic. Yeah. It was our #1 most viewed clip yesterday. It blew up. Nearly 20,000 views on that clip alone on Twitter. The DTR trade talk, even on Twitter, exploded like wildfire. And I think it's worth mentioning before we dive into the actual question of this topic. It's every GM, and this includes Andrew Berry, it's their job to listen if some team wants to call and offer them a trade. Like, it's GM malpractice not to at least see what's out there for any kind of player, right, Earl? And if a team wants to call the Browns about DTR, it'd be silly for Andrew Berry not to answer the phone. None of us yesterday were saying, hey, we should trade DTR. We were all just saying if the right deal comes across, you'd be silly not to listen. So I just want to make sure that is on the record and clear because all three of us talked about it yesterday. The question today, though, is, Jason, and I'll start with you. We'll go Earl next. If you had to win one game in 2024, this season, and your two choices to play quarterback were DTR or Tyler Huntley, the two quarterbacks the Browns are believably choosing between for their quarterback 3 spot, who do you think gives the Browns the best chance to win one game this year, Huntley or DTR?
This makes me be a hypocrite, and I don't like doing that. But if I had to pick one game to win right now, I would probably take Tyler Huntley. But I still like DTR. In a long-term view, in the overall quarterback ability, I still like DTR. Huntley obviously has more experience, though. He's been around a little bit more. I somehow made a Pro Bowl. I still don't understand how that happened. I seriously, that just totally baffles me. But he's a veteran who knows different systems, who has had success in different systems. So I guess you would lean him. But I really like DTR. And I don't want to turn this into an Austin Watkins type thing of how can you do this to Austin Watkins? You have to find a place on this team for Austin Watkins, which was somehow became a thing toward the end of last year. I don't want to make it that. He's a young quarterback. Earl's putting his hand up.
Guilty. Guilty.
I really wasn't calling you out. It wasn't just you. It was a lot of people that felt that way.
It's okay.
And I don't want to turn it into that, but I do really like him long term. And I just think that we've seen enough glimpses to know, listen, he was a 5th-round quarterback. He's a project. You know that going in. But he hasn't done anything to me to make you say, it's time to give up and move on from him other than some of the injury concerns. So, and if you're playing the year-to-year game and this is your third quarterback, I can see why I guess they would side with Tyler Huntley. But I'm with Bernie. We had Bernie in yesterday, and Bernie was really high on Dorian, and I kind of am as well. So, if this comes to pass and they wind up moving him for kind of a mid-round to late-round pick that's not a ton of value, and I don't think you're going to get more than that for him, I'm going to be disappointed. So it's kind of a conflicted answer.
Yeah, I mean, in the words of G. Bush, DTR. Listen, I hear what Jason's saying, and when we was talking about this, I thought about it. Like, Huntley, for whatever reason, God knows how, made it to the Pro Bowl. And when you seen him play in those spot starts in Baltimore when Lamar was hurt, you see him be able to make the ball, score some touchdowns, and move the ball, score some touchdowns, and make some plays. But at the end of the day, when you just take away the experience, I mean, DTR is just a better football player. And we've seen DTR kind of grow up in front of our face, in my opinion, before he got hurt. He just plays with a certain confidence and swag when he knows exactly what he's doing. He has a strong arm. He seems to be able to make some right decisions more often than not. Like, this dude, 5th round pick, but he has a lot of potential, and he's played a lot of football in a pro style offense. And I got to roll with that. I got to roll with the youth that's a better player out over the experience. I just think he's better than him. So
we got one answer for DTR. We got one answer for Huntley, which means
grudgingly for Huntley.
I'm going to be the tiebreaker. And we got to pull up in this, and we'll read the results at the end. I bet you would say 85% of the chat is going to say DTR. And if the question was for half a season, who would you rather have fill in for half a season? I would take DTR. I would. And I like DTR. I think he has a chance to be a decade-long, solid, legitimate backup quarterback based on his arm strength, his athleticism. He seems to kind of get a good grasp of an offense in a pretty quick time span. But for one game in 2024 this year, I think I have to roll with Huntley. And I went back and looked. I'm throwing the Baltimore game out the window last year. Like, I don't put any stock into that whatsoever.
Yeah.
Against Pittsburgh, they won that game 13-10. Mm-hmm. Do you remember his numbers from that game? I didn't, I'll be honest.
No, I remember thinking he played relatively decently. It was a low-scoring game, and I felt like he had a late drive.
He was 24.
But I could be making all of that up.
No, he's right on, because I was going to say I don't remember the numbers. I remember he managed the game well. Like, he didn't blow it.
Yeah.
That's what I remember.
He was 24 of 43 for 165 yards, 1 interception, no touchdowns, and a 55 quarterback rating.
Not great.
Against Denver. Do you remember his stats against Denver?
No, but I remember the touchdown drive,
That
the
throw.
Yep.
That throw.
And then he got knocked out. So those were both his
out.
last 2 drives. They did almost nothing in the first half. His overall game stats, 14 of 29, so 47% completion percentage, 134 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. There was a bunch of drops in that game, so the numbers look a little worse than they actually are. DTR's put up huge numbers in the preseason. When he's had a chance to play in the NFL in a regular season game, now granted, it's 2.5 games. The Baltimore game I put no real stock into. It hasn't matched the preseason hype of DTR. So for one game this year, just one game, I'm going to roll with Huntley because I think it's harder to confuse a guy who's played in more meaningful football games than DTR has at that level. And for stability, I take Huntley's stability and higher floor and lower ceiling for one game than I would take with DTR, who certainly has a higher ceiling, but also has a lower floor. If this was an 8-game sample and you said, hey, Deshaun, for whatever reason, isn't going to play the back half of the season, 8 games, who you taking? I'm rolling with DTR 100 out of 100 times. But for one game, I'd roll with Tyler Huntley.
You know what I just thought about when you mentioned that game and DTR had receivers dropping the ball? Like, what if, and this will never happen, but what if they can change how they count stats, right? Like, if, however the NFL defines a drop, like if a receiver drops a ball,
doesn't count as an
it
incompletion.
doesn't count as an incompletion against the quarterback. And so then when we have these arguments about Deshaun Watson and others, it'd be straight, okay, completion, incompletion, or, this receiver dropped this many balls, etc.
Well, do you remember?
It's almost like earned run average in baseball. It doesn't count against you.
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, do you remember, I don't remember if it was Pittsburgh or Denver, but he threw a couple, because he has a cannon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I remember the one to Njoku, it was against Pittsburgh, I'm seeing it in my head. It was a 5-yard stop, and he threw it like a 10,000-mile-an-hour fastball. And it counts as a drop because it hit him in the hand.
Yeah.
But objectively, that's an uncatchable. Do you remember the play I'm talking
I
about?
didn't know exactly because I remember at the time thinking it was Scott Bakula and Necessary Roughness throwing. Remember, like, did you ever see that movie?
Yeah.
We threw it to Featherstone, and he couldn't catch, so he just rammed it right into his face mask.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of what that throw looked like.
So-
I'm just going to ram it right into his face mask.
So not all drops are equal, but
Right.
I would like to see if if the NFL could figure out catchable passes versus uncatchable passes and certain accuracy for a little.
I remember like
analytics.
when the Eagles played in the Super Bowl and McNabb threw that like 10-yard pass to T.O. and T.O. turned it into a long touchdown.
And he gets
McNabb
credit
got credited for this long-ass touchdown
70-yard
throw.
touchdown
When
throw.
in reality, you threw a 10-yard pass, T.O. did the rest.
Or a screen,
Yeah,
like,
something
or
like
a little
that,
jet
yeah.
sweep where you just pitch it forward.
It'd be
So,
cool if you could find a way to play with the stats like
Yeah.
that. It just when you said that, it made me think about that.
Half a season, would you change your answer to
Yeah,
DTR? Right?
probably, yeah.
But for one game, or how close of a decision was it for you?
It's real close. I guess I'm a little biased when it comes to DTR.
Yes, you
right?
got it. I know you like him.
I really like him as a player. I just think he's a great athlete and he's a highly intelligent quarterback. But I mean, Huntley made a Pro Bowl, even though me and Jason still can't figure out how.
You weren't impressed with his 2 touchdown passes that season?
Yeah, right.
I'm pretty sure he had 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions that year.
Man,
If DTR and MJ Emerson were both drowning, which one are you saving?
Well, MJ would never drown, so that's an impossible question to ask.
I mean, I got 2 hands. So I got to pull both my boys up.
Let me ask you all this. If it does come to a situation, we hope it doesn't, but if it does come to the situation where the Browns have to start either DTR or Huntley, how confident would you feel going into that game? Do you both give the Browns a chance to win?
Yeah.
Do you think a good enough shot to win?
You know why? I would, and this is no like hometown bias. The Cleveland Browns, led by Kevin Stefanski, just showed me so much like tenacity last year. It just showed me this will to like overcome adversity and to never quit. And I find it hard to believe that the Cleveland Browns are going to find themselves in that same situation to where you have to start 3 or 4 quarterbacks again. But if they did, you know, they already got a track record of showing like, you know what, we built for this. We can overcome adversity. We hope it doesn't come down to that, but this team has clearly bought into Kevin Stefanski's leadership. They believe that overall as a unit, they're good enough to beat anybody with damn near anybody playing quarterback. And so, you know, I would be more confident in that situation this season than I was last year.
The reality is, if they had to start a game with either one of those guys, they would not be favored in any game except maybe, 5, 6 games, maybe. I'm trying to think of the bottom of the NFL. They're not going to be
Their schedule
favored.
is tough.
Yeah,
There's not
going to
any gimmies.
Obviously, you're assuming that the quarterback on the other side is healthy. But if do they have a chance to win? Of course, it's the NFL. Everybody has a chance to win. Would I pick them to win? It'd be matchup based on that, and it'd be dependent who the opponent is. But in terms of Vegas and lines, there's only a handful of teams that they would be favored against if those guys were starting.
I don't think they'd be favored. I'd feel good enough about both those guys giving the Browns a chance to win. There are a lot of backup and third-string quarterbacks in football where if they're starting, it just chalk it up as an L.
I mean, we saw P.J. Walker beat the 49ers.
I was just about to say, I wish I knew, I could remember off the top of my head how big of an underdog we were going into that game.
The San Francisco game?
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Somehow Mike lost a lot of money on that game.
It's your fault.
And he blames me.
It's your fault.
But like
your
to your
fault.
point, I mean, you got to check the matchups, the weather. Like there's so many different elements that goes into it, and plus any given Sunday in the NFL is legit.
Yeah.
Like anybody can get got any given week. Before we came down here, I was watching this video of Ronnie Brown the day that the Miami
Wildcat?
Dolphins debuted
The 5 touchdowns? I saw that clip.
Yeah, and it was crazy because that was one of the years New England was really, really good, and they got that day. So it can happen.
Did you ever tell a story on the air? Are you allowed to tell a story?
No, we're not going to talk about that story.
all right.
No. Because it was not with our sponsor, Sportsbook, so we're not going to.
Oh, that part doesn't
No,
matter.
we'll save it for overtime. It's an overtime story.
right.
And let's do a read. Let's get to our what's more likely from Earl.
Yeah, guys, so this next topic comes right from the mind of Earl, and the only other thing that we do that comes right from the mind of Earl is the Ultimate 216 show, and he's got a special guest lining up for this week. Earl, do you want to promo anything, a little sneak peek?
Yeah, man. We had Abdullah Mason live in studio after he went 14-0. He since then went 15-0, so he's going to be joining me on the Ultimate 216 show tomorrow at 5 p.m. to talk about his recent victory. What's coming up next? We're going to talk about some Cleveland Browns football and just what it's like growing up in the inner city of Cleveland, Ohio. But, yeah, I kind of got my Ice Cube on. Like when you produce and you be on panel for a segment you produce.
Do the same thing, yeah.
So I was, just thinking yesterday about, okay, topics like me and you always do. Newsflash, me and Mike got the little note section in our phone, and we probably got like 1,000 topics apiece saved in there. And I got to thinking about the Kansas City Chiefs, how if the Browns want to, reach their overall goal, 9 times out of 10, you're going to have to go through Kansas City to do it, which is winning the Super Bowl. But then I also thought about how hard it is to three-peat in the NFL. And I'm high on the Cleveland Browns. Like, of course, a lot of people in the city are looking at this team as a team that can go deep into the playoffs. But we also have never won the AFC North. And it just got me to thinking about what's more likely in 2024 at the end of the season. The Cleveland Browns win a division or the Kansas City Chiefs win their 3rd consecutive Super Bowl.
I actually want you to start on this. I know we talk about how a host sets it up and then goes, but I want you to start because I know how you're going to answer. I'm 99% sure I know how Jason's going to answer, and I go back and forth. But I want to give you guys a little context to these numbers before Earl tells us.
I got to go with the Cleveland Browns winning the AFC North because a three-peat in the Super Bowl, a three-peat, in the NFL has not happened since the 60s, right?
65, 66, 67, the Lombardi Packers.
History just says it's hard as hell to do. It probably won't happen. And to, go through that gauntlet year in and year out, it's mentally taxing, especially when everybody is gunning for you. And people might not want to admit this, but you can just see if you watch the Kansas City Chiefs play last year that it seemed like teams were starting to catch up to their system and their philosophy, right? Starting to learn how to counter what they do well. And I only really expect that to still be the case going forward. Every team in the NFL knows that the Kansas City Chiefs is the standard. Damn near every team, no matter NFC or AFC, believe if I need to win the Super Bowl, I have to beat Kansas City. And so in my mind, every GM and every head coach is preparing their team to do just that. And I just feel like, man, when you're trying to go through that gauntlet of winning 3 straight Super Bowls, it's damn near impossible. And, the AFC North is going to be tough. But the Browns, by all accounts, got one of the best teams overall in the NFL. And when you play inside your division and you can win your division games, and we've seen the Browns in recent years, really match up mano-a-mano against every team in this division, I just got more confidence in my boys being able to bring home that North title than Kansas City going out there winning their 3rd straight Super Bowl.
Jason?
I agree, the Browns. No, come on. This is Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs we're talking about. Now, it's actually an interesting question. It's pitiful in a way. Can one team win their 3rd straight Super Bowl, or can one team win their freaking division for the first time in 35 years?
They've never won this current construct of the AFC North yet.
Correct. The last time they won any sort of division, I was 13. Were you even born in 1989?
Nope.
Were you born in 89?
Yeah, I was born in 87.
Oh, thank God. Well, at least, you were on this earth.
Yeah,
even if you don't remember it.
I don't remember it. I say the pictures.
I'm a little bit concerned about this Brown season, just where we stand right now. I just don't love some of the things that are going on, what we're hearing, what I've heard coming out with some of the offensive line stuff and quarterback play and everything else. I just don't love where they're at. It doesn't mean they can't pull it together and make the playoffs, but when you look at the division and you look at who they're going up against in this division, unfortunately, I think the Chiefs, because of Patrick Mahomes and who they are and the culture they have, and Patrick Mahomes and Patrick Mahomes and Patrick Mahomes, I just think that it's more likely that the Chiefs are going to win another Super Bowl.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes' playoff record is 15-3.
That's insane.
He's made at least the AFC Championship in every season he's been the starter. He is the undisputed, unquestioned, despite what the NFL Top 100 says, best player in football, and the gap between him and everyone else is pretty damn big. They also have Andy Reid, who with Bill Belichick retiring, is the best coach in football. They still have Travis Kelce. They still have Chris Jones. They revamped their receiver corps. And when you look at the Browns, they have questions at quarterback. Deshaun has to prove he's Deshaun before we could fully buy in, and he has to prove his shoulder is healthy again to play quarterback at a high level. We don't know about Nick Chubb. We don't know about the offensive line situation. But here's what we do know. This defense has a chance to be damn good again in 2024.
Facts, big facts.
We also know the Bengals are a poverty franchise, and their best player right now, outside of Joe Burrow, is not in camp.
And they copycats.
And they're copycats. And they lost some key pieces on defense. And their offensive line is still a question mark, despite the additions they made this offseason. And also, is Joe Burrow's hand healthy? That's another surgery, just like Deshaun's, that's unprecedented. We don't 100% know how his thumb's going to be. He's played in the preseason. We've seen a little glimpse, but can Joe Burrow stay healthy for 17 games? I don't know. I don't think his injuries get talked about enough. So I have my questions about the Bengals. The Ravens lost their defensive coordinator, who was damn good, by the way. Lost to Evian Clowney. Bring Derrick Henry in. Derrick Henry's like 48 years old at this point. Still terrific, but he has question marks. They lost some key pieces in that secondary. Geno Stone, gone. Can Marlon Humphrey stay healthy? I don't know. The Steelers have Russell Wilson and Justin Fields going through a quarterback battle. So there's some uncertainty in the AFC North too, Earl. So if you're asking me, do I have to pick between Patrick Mahomes and his 15-3 playoff record, or the Browns and the questions around their offense in this up-in-the-air AFC North? I'm taking the Cleveland Browns. And here's why. Because FanDuel says their odds to win the AFC North are 450, and the Chiefs' odds to win the Super Bowl are 600. So going on FanDuel odds, give me the Browns, who have a lower odds or better odds technically to win the AFC North. And I just think the AFC North, as good as the division is, all the teams have questions. Every single team has questions. And I could truly see the Browns finishing first or fourth. It all depends on how Deshaun plays. And until I see Deshaun play poorly again, I may be grasping for air, but I'm going to lean on the optimistic side that he's back to the Deshaun the Browns thought they were trading for. And if he is, there's no reason the Browns can't win the division. And the Chiefs should compete for the Super Bowl, but I'm just bored of the Chiefs. They're so good. They cannot win.
You know, on the other platform, maybe about a month and a half ago, I had Tyvis on. Mm-hmm. And one of the questions I asked Tyvis was, when you look at all the turnover on the offensive side of the ball, in your opinion, do you believe that the Cleveland Browns will get off to a slow start this season? And I remember him saying that it wouldn't shock or surprise him if they did. And then I just listened to, your take on your concerns going into this season. In my group chat with my friends, they was asking me about it this morning. And, if I'm being honest with myself and honest with everybody else, there is some cause for concern. I'm still very optimistic about this season, but I'm not going to lie and say I don't sit here and act like I don't have no cause for concern. That left tackle position, it's
a legit
iffy.
issue.
It's a legit issue, right? And then the fact that you got a brand new offense, you got all these new coaches in here, and the lack of continuity because of injuries or whatever else, it's training camp is for everybody that's going to be playing on the same unit, is to gain that chemistry and that cohesiveness. And the Browns weren't able to do that with the offensive line, with the wide receivers, etc. And I have to be realistic about this is the NFL. I find it hard to believe that the Cleveland Browns are going to hit the ground running with, simply based off of timing, chemistry, continuity, all these new voices. People are still going to being out there trying to figure things out. Now, with that being said, the Browns are a good football team. So their learning curve is not the one of, say, like a Las Vegas Raiders if they had that same type of turnover. So I think they'll still put forth some quality football, but you will see the learning curves. You will see the hurdles and the hiccups along the way throughout the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season. And I think if people have that realistic expectation, they won't be so pissed off if it don't look like they expect them to.
Jason, when Earl was saying that made me think. All the turnover on the staff. Mm-hmm. And this probably is a topic for another day. I'm going to ask you to guess, and Earl, please chime in on this off the fly. We'll do some more research. How often is coaching change, especially from a coordinator and a position? We always assume it's going to be an upgrade. How often is it actually an upgrade? Can you go back to the last 15, 20 years of Browns, be a head coach, coordinator, whatever, where it's, you always get excited for the new guy. But what percentage of it is actually a hit versus a step back? And this is probably a research topic.
Yeah, it's impossible to answer.
Yeah. I'm going to add it to my list that Earl mentioned of.
And especially a sitting head coach with a new coordinator, and then because there's it can be different and not necessarily better or worse. It's just different.
It's just different, right?
Yeah. So it's hard. I guess you could look at the numbers of where did you rank and how many yards did you, how many points and how many did you allow, what did you gain, and you can have a definitive. It got better or worse, but I don't know if that's a perfect indicator either. I just think it's different schemes bring different results, and it's just different. It's not necessarily better or worse, but sure, there are instances of things that you think are going to be better, and then it takes a step back. Freddie Kitchens as a head coach comes to mind, and
whoop the hell.
and then he brought Monken with him, right? And Todd Monken's a great offensive coordinator, but it didn't work here, and he's back in the college ranks, isn't he? Is he Alabama or Georgia?
He was at Georgia, but didn't he go back?
I think he's in Baltimore.
Is he back in Baltimore?
Yeah, I think he's in Baltimore. Yeah. Yeah, he revamped their offense. He went to Georgia, won a championship. Then he went to
You're right. He was
Baltimore
in Baltimore last year, wasn't
yeah.
he? Yeah. All right. My brain's catching up.
No, but do you see the question I'm asking, though? Like, we always just assume, hey, switching AVP to like, and I'm just using that example, but it happens to every team. We always think it's going to be an upgrade because it's new. How often does the history actually suggest?
Who was the DC prior to Joe Woods? But again, it's a whole new scheme. It's a whole new coaching staff.
What was the guy? Ray? Was it Ray?
Wasn't Greg Williams? That was
the guy that used to be the Cardinals head
coach. Yeah.
Steve Wilkes.
Steve Wilkes.
Was Wilkes right before? I don't remember now. There've been so many come through here, but I don't know if that was necessarily an upgrade when Joe Woods came in.
Yeah.
Well, Schwartz to Woods was definitely an upgrade.
That was an upgrade.
Yeah.
And I know, like, man, there's so much meat on this bone, and we'll probably have to save it for another time. But
we got to research it to.
Yeah, but it's like Jason is talking about the different schemes and things like that, but it's the personalities as well. You know, Tua came out in the recent days and had some choice comments about Brian Flores, and as I was listening to the radio, they were talking about Wyatt Teller had appeared on a podcast, and he talked about the biggest difference from playing with. For Bill Callahan versus the new offensive line coach, how, Callahan is old school. He'll grill you and how, because you had to mentally prepare for his style, it may come into work some days a little difficult to where, he used the words like this is like a breath of fresh air because of his personality. And it wasn't just the offensive coordinator change, right? It was the OC, it was the running backs coach, it was the tight ends coach, it was the O-line coach. There was so much changeover within, the coaching staff on that side of the ball that I think it's fair to say, like, okay, it's going to be a learning curve once we actually hit the ground running because nobody has had live real game reps together. We've seen other teams throughout this preseason, play their starters for a series or two way before they got to the final preseason game. For whatever reason, that wasn't our case. Injury, our own plan, etc. I'm just saying, like, I just think it would be unrealistic to not expect them to kind of have to, like, ramp this thing up as they get the season going.
Totally that. And I'll dig in and do the research of the list of, like, chronological order, Schwartz to Woods to whoever it was, and same with offensive coordinators. And maybe one day we come in and I'll pick some numbers to kind of give you a commonplace. The NFL changes, so passing yards may skyrocket, but the passing offense may actually not be that much better. But I think that'll be a fun discussion before the season to just kind of give a little context to coaching changes. And what does the chat say? Browns win the division or Chiefs win a third Super Bowl?
What do you think?
They're pretty split. But
really?
It is 53% Browns win the North. 47% say Chiefs the repeat.
That's way closer than I expected.
What was the DTR Huntley one?
I was like 75% DTR.
That's what
25 Huntley.
Yeah.
I got a bold prediction for the season.
What you got?
My man Darren Smith ain't gonna like this.
Darren's texting me and saying there's no way in hell that the Chiefs don't win a third Super Bowl.
Well, I know Darren is watching. I know Darren is listening. My big bold prediction is the Kansas City Chiefs won't even make it to the AFC Championship game this year.
I thought you could say won't even make the playoffs.
Yeah, that's bold. That's spicy.
I think that we're going to see two different teams in the AFC Championship this year. That's my bold prediction.
Woo. My bold prediction is Darren's going to text you in about 4 seconds.
He probably is.
It's a 30-second delay.
He probably is.
Crack. So
he probably is. So, but that's why it's bold, though, right? It's something that you got to stand out there.
Isn't it last thing, and then we'll move on because I think this Bleacher Report trade topic is going to be a lot
real
of
quick
fun.
though, I do want to know what two teams are making it, Earl. If the Chiefs aren't making it,
Browns versus who? I know you're picking the Browns.
I'm gonna be honest with you, man. There's going to be a certain team that the Cleveland Browns are going to face 3 times this year.
Ooh, Baltimore.
I think so.
That'd be fun.
I think so.
The fact that Mahomes has made the AFC Championship 6 straight years and is 15-3 in the playoffs is just stupid.
Yeah, I'm just saying, man. Like
it's just a stupid stat.
Listen, listen. New England was the greatest dynasty I've ever seen over the last 20 years, man. Even they had down a year or two. So
yeah. All right, Ant. Let's do a read and let's talk about some NBA trades over the last decade.
Yeah, guys, you've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel here on Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, and it's America's #1 sports book. Well, we have something different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Just visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to download America's #1 sportsbook.
So Bleacher Report put out an article yesterday, I think it was 2 days ago, it was actually on Monday, that regraded the 10 biggest NBA trades of the last decade, Jason. One of those was the Donovan Mitchell trade from Utah to Cleveland. So Ant picked 5 of his favorite deals from that, and we'll start with the Donovan trade and go to some others, and see how, in hindsight, a few years post-mortem, how each team did in said trade. So we'll start with the Cavs trade and how Bleacher Report then graded the return the Cavs got and the return the Jazz got. And in there, post-mortem regrades for the Donovan Mitchell trade, the Jazz got an A and the Cavs got a B+. Jason, you want to start on that? Do you feel like that's fair, off, right, wrong?
I'd give the Cavs an A. I think both sides got out of it what they wanted. I mean, there's still a lot of the trade still to go. Obviously, we're just getting into the meat of the picks that Utah's going to get, and who knows what they can do. I mean, at this point, they look like they're going to be middle to low picks, which is obviously what the Cavs want. But, I mean, how can you give the Cavs anything below an A when Donovan just re-signed?
talk that talk, Jason.
Had Donovan not signed the extension, yeah, the trade could have been an absolute disaster. But that's not how this went. And, I mean, Markkanen's turned into a terrific player. We kind of knew when he left here that was a possibility. I've never been big on Colin. I just think he's sort of an empty calories kind of scorer. Abaji, is a whatever. Yeah.
Can't play.
But the picks are still to come. So Utah did fine. Like, Utah did very well in this deal. I think both sides won.
Yeah, they gave the Cavs a B+ in the explanation, saying it hasn't fully raised their ceiling to the point where you would hope 2 years after trading for a stars. But I'm calling BS on that. I think both teams got an A. This is one of the rare trades in NBA history where it's a superstar package for a superstar player that's worked out almost to perfection for both teams.
Yeah.
The Jazz wanted picks and young pieces to build around. Lloyd Markkanen has turned into an all-NBA, all-star caliber player, and they got a ton of first-round picks and pick swaps to continue to build the future of their franchise. And the Cavs got a star back who then re-signed with the team, solidifying their foundation for the next 5, 6, 7 years, hopefully, to build around Donovan Mitchell. And although they've only won one playoff series in 2 years, that doesn't diminish the trade in its own right. And because Donovan re-signed, I think giving them anything but an A is a miss. I think it's one of those rare trades where both teams got exactly, to Jason's point, exactly what they wanted from the deal. And if they could do it again tomorrow, I think both say yes again.
Yeah, I thought Bleacher Report, man, I thought they was hating on the Cavs, to be totally honest with you. I took a screenshot of it, and I made a reel, and I paid a little Boosie, tell me why they hating on me.
I mean, it's not even giving an F, but B+
no, they
ain't
still
that
hating
far
it.
off.
I'm going to tell you why. Because if you look at it, like, Laurie and Spider cancel each other out. To your point, he re-signed here. So that automatically makes it an A. But it ain't like Colin Sexton didn't have developed into a starter. Obaji really ain't made no noise. And those draft picks is unproven commodities, right? Laurie Markkanen then turned into a all-NBA player, all-star player, somebody that they want to build their franchise around. And clearly the Cleveland Cavaliers have made, their choice. Like, when you made that trade, I'm building this thing around Donovan Mitchell. You got him to re-sign. Anything other than this being an A both ways is just, to me, hating on the Cavs for no reason.
I would rather have Donovan than Markkanen. As good as Markkanen is,
100%, yeah.
And the fact that Markkanen is bigger and can play the three, which, I mean, give Cleveland credit for that because he never played the three before he came here. I'd still rather have Donovan.
Me too.
Now, for as good as Markkanen is, can you look at that and say the Cavs overpaid for everything else, given that they are moderately close? But in the NBA, it's such a star-driven league. We've talked about that before. You always want the top-end talent, which the Cavs have. So And you're right. Like, they won one playoff series, and they kind of rigged the system a little bit to get the matchup that they want. And the first year was a flame out. I put a lot of it on Donovan. Donovan was terrible against the Knicks. He admits he was terrible against the Knicks. It was a terrible series. But when you have the injuries that you have in this year, and you lose to the team that was far and away the best team all year long, and won the championship, I don't know that you can ding them for losing to the team that won the championship. It's the way that it fell timing wise. You got him in the second round because you wanted so badly to win that first playoff series. So then this is the backside to it. You got the playoff win that you really, really needed, but the downside is you had to catch this team in the second round, and then you had the injuries and everything else. So, I mean, listen, I've been hard on the Cavs plenty at previous turns, but in this, once he signed that extension, that's an A, man.
Yeah,
both sides win.
They gave it a B+, so it's not like they're far off, but I do think it's an A. He re-signed. At the end of the day, that was the main goal when you traded for Donovan Mitchell is you have 2 years to prove, essentially, this is a place you can win a championship and compete at the highest levels to get him to re-sign an extension. And what did he do this offseason? He put pen to paper and signed that extension.
That trade was a huge risk for the Cavs, for Kobe Altman. It was a big risk. And they got the payoff for it. And not to mention, like, I thought the Kyrie trade was terrible. We'll go back to Boston when Danny Ainge was in Boston. And Kobe and Danny Ainge linked up on the Boston deal. And I thought that was awful. And now here they go linking up again in Utah. And you kind of look at it and go, did Danny get him again?
Because he's Danny.
No, yeah, because he's Danny.
Because he's Danny.
And Danny don't make bad trades.
Right.
Danny's
and this wasn't a bad trade for Utah.
Danny's coming up on this list again. And if there's one thing, I think, big picture from the rest of these trades we're going to learn, don't trade with Danny Ainge. If you're a superstar player, or if Danny Ainge is a superstar player that you want, you're paying 175% of what you think you're actually paying. He seems to hit on every one of these big trades.
Jason is right. I don't think you can never underestimate the magnitude of how significant that moment was because he's not LeBron James. He's not from Northeast Ohio. And to make that decision to re-up with the Cavaliers and, by all accounts, he really seems to love the city, love playing for the Cavs, love being the face of the Cavs, etc. And it's funny because I always had this internal belief that he would resign. Mm-hmm. I had no type of evidence, and it was you. Like the question that you asked him during that introduction press conference had nothing to do with basketball, and for whatever reason, my internal intuition was just like, he's not that type of superstar player. He asked him something about the weather, and he said, "Man, I love the fall. I love the winter. It gives me the opportunity to dress." That told me, okay, this is not a guy that's looking to go in Miami to South Beach. He's not looking to go to the Lakers, none of that. Plus, he's from Connecticut. He's from New York. Like, he's used to the cold. So it'd be little things that you can see with certain guys that kind of tell you something about their character to where certain things ain't really all that impressive to them as the outside noise think it is.
I mean, I do think he seriously considered the idea of if New York was open or Miami, but at the end of the day, Cleveland gives him the best basketball chance to win.
There were a lot of mitigating factors that went into this summer, but it doesn't matter. He signed the
contract. Yeah, that's the only thing that matters.
Darren texted me, said you lost your goddamn mind. Just a heads up. He wanted me to tell you that too. So, and let's get to the next deal. This was the Kevin Durant from the Nets to the Suns trade.
He texted me too.
The Suns got Durant in the deal. The Nets got Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, and every first-round pick and pick swap. For this deal, Jason, they gave the Nets an A++++, and the Phoenix Suns a B. What do you think about those regrades in hindsight?
I like the Nets. I agree with that. I would actually probably I mean, I think we're quibbling here, just like I think they were a little low. I think they're a little high, maybe B-, C+. I don't think KD is quite the player that he was, and it's not even – it's more the cap in the position that Phoenix is in with cap building or with roster building because of the cap restrictions on this, which is not necessarily KD's fault, but the Suns overpaid for Kevin Durant. I do think that.
Yep.
Because of the stage he's at in his career. They had a new owner coming in. He was trying to make a splash, and this is how you wind up in situations like this. I agree on the Nets side. The Suns, I'd probably go B-, C+.
Yeah, I agree on the Nets side. I'll probably leave it where it's at right now for the Suns. I mean, I don't agree with Jason as far as like him not being the same player. Of course, there is some decline because he's a little older, but I think Kevin Durant is still a dog and still a guy You know,
I'd love him on my team.
I was just about to say, like, I think
Yeah.
all of us are trying to figure out a package
Yeah.
to get him to Cleveland if we could. But I mean,
I tried.
They gave up a they gave up a lot, and when you see the return on investment that they got, I mean, those are some quality basketball players that got bright futures ahead of them.
Yeah, I think you could say it's a little high just because they gave up the same amount of picks that everyone else gave up.
Mm-hmm.
Marketing wasn't established to the same level Mikal Bridges was when they made the trade, and Cam Johnson, and they gave up both those guys plus all the picks. Those guys were younger, so the Nets nailed that one. They flipped Mikal Bridges into another set of 100 draft picks. They essentially turned Kevin Durant into like 15 draft picks.
I just can't wait till we say future Cleveland Cavalier.
Which is crazy.
Cam Johnson. I can't wait till we can say that.
They'll put him in the luxury tax. There's not a chance now. I can't imagine. There's no chance Cam Johnson's coming with his $25 million salary.
Right now?
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about it before with it. If it's the right player, then you press go and you go into the tax. If the right guy becomes available, I don't know how.
He's been available all summer, so
but
must not look at him.
But I don't know, what do they have that the Nets want?
Niang and 4 second-round picks, but that's not enough.
That's not enough.
Yeah,
and they don't have any first-round picks to trade. Just because the guy's available doesn't
Yeah.
mean you have the assets to give him up. If Brooklyn would take that deal,
Cavs are doing
Cam
it.
Johnson would be here
Yeah.
and they'd be in the tax and you go.
And you just deal with it. Exactly.
Yeah.
So B minus, I think it's right in the right range. I think the bigger misfire for the Suns was the Bradley Beal deal, which put them up against the second apron of luxury tax completely.
That's fair.
Completely handcuffed everything else. The Durant deal in itself, if you get a chance to have Kevin Durant, you go get Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
Was Bradley Beal worth handcuffing the rest of your roster? I will die on the hill that he is never worth that 100 out of 100 times. He's a good player, but that's about it. He's a good player. So
Kevin Durant or Donovan Mitchell, who do you want on your team right now?
this year,
Just right now. Who do you want on your
Can't
team?
have both.
Nope, can't have both.
And the rest of the roster is what
one
it
of the-
is.
Who do you want on your team right now? Kevin Durant.
for 1 year, it's probably still Durant.
I would
For-
agree.
1 year
for,
is Durant.
For
I can't
more
even
than
lie
1
to
year,
myself.
it's Mitchell.
And that's kind of the point I'm making is it's not an easy question to answer, but Kevin Durant's 35 years old. How much longer is he going to play? He's not LeBron.
Well, hold on. Last time we did a Cavs show last week, I said for this year, would you rather have LeBron or Donovan? And you said, thank God I'm not on the show Thursday because you don't want to answer that. So now you're just going to take my question, change it a little bit, and throw it back on us on
I
air.
forgot about that.
That's why I hate doing a show with this guy.
Forgot about that. But
I
no,
literally waited until we finished to say, hey, Jason, I'm asking you this now when we're not on air because I know it's going to put you in a weird spot.
Yeah.
And then Jason, that's what Jason does. I'm going to do a Cavs show by myself tonight.
But I mean, Donovan's 27. His length, his window is much more significant. KD's got maybe 2 years at this level.
But he's still so damn good.
He is.
He's still so damn good.
I don't think he's LeBron. I don't think
No.
he's going to play to 40.
No.
Maybe I'm
I don't
wrong.
think his body could sustain that.
I agree.
Either.
I agree.
He's had some injury stuff. Next trade was the Kyrie trade from Brooklyn to Dallas. They gave the Mavs an A for that trade. The Nets got Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, a first, and a couple seconds back in return. They gave the Nets for that trade a B. Jason, it's a Kyrie trade. Earl, Kyrie trade. This one didn't really move the needle for me.
It didn't move the needle for me at all. I mean, when I look at this situation, I kept it real simple. The Mavs found themselves in the NBA Finals, so it's like it's one of those situations to where, hell yeah, you won that trade. You traded for Kyrie Irving to get to that point, ultimately to win it. You came up short, but the goal when you made that trade was to a run to the NBA Finals, and you did that. So to me, the Mavs definitely got an A. As far as the Nets getting a B, I mean, like I said, draft picks is unproven commodities, right? And most time in the NBA, if you're not really a lottery pick, the impact that you have on your team, it takes a minute for you to see that, right? And so Finney-Smith has been, rumored in different trades and different things, including the Cavs and other teams. So, I mean, I guess the B would be a stretch for them, but the Mavs definitely deserve an A.
I think both teams get an A on this.
You're missing one thing in the Kyrie part of this. I'm curious if Jason's going to bring it up.
He had no value.
That's it.
His value was flatlined
Yep.
at the time. And so for the return that you got, given that his value was as suppressed as it was, I think it's an A for the Nets. And hand up, when the Dallas made this trade, I thought, what are you doing? Why would you want Kyrie anywhere near Luka?
And why are you paying that much when no one else is offering
wants to
anything
touch him.
for him?
Yeah, and I thought that he would sort of poison the well in Dallas like he did everywhere else he's been. And to Kyrie's credit, I think he's grown up a little bit. Certainly he's grown up since I was around him. He's grown up a lot since then. and I don't think he's the same guy that he was in some of those other places, and it's worked. Like, they had a vision, Dallas saw it, they went after it, they pursued it, and it worked much better than I thought that it was going to. So I again, on both of those, I think both sides got what they wanted. I'm surprised Brooklyn, at the time I thought Brooklyn got way more for him than I thought that they would. So that's two A's for me.
That is a scary backcourt. That is a scary backcourt. Kyrie with the ball in his hands is something special. Like,
poetry in motion.
And we already know what Luka is and what Luka is turning into. Like, that is, man, that's fierce to have to go up against that night in and night out.
Kyrie's a killer, man.
Yeah, he really is. Like, we learned that firsthand real quick.
When I went down to Dallas last year to help them shoot the pilot for the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show, which is up and running, by the way, so shout out to them. That was like the main crux of the pilot we shot. They had just traded for Kyrie. Could it work? How would it work? We had a bunch of different Mavs players on and the Mavs play-by-play guy. And it was really cool to see before it happened, them like envision what it could be.
Yeah.
And then they had that little stretch where they ended up tanking last season to get the draft pick that turned into Derek Lively. You're like, oh my goodness, what a catastrophe. But then it turned exactly into what you would have wanted in 2023-24. They make the finals, so win-win for both. Next trade, the other one with Danny Ainge that we mentioned earlier, was the Rudy Gobert trade. Gobert goes to Minnesota. Minnesota sends a couple guys who are solid role players who have eventually been traded off, and a ton of picks. They gave the T-Wolves an A- for this one, and the Jazz an A+, which goes to show, again, if you're going to trade with Danny Ainge, buyers beware.
Yeah.
That dude somehow gets insane haul. And we're talking Rudy Gobert here.
Yeah.
That's essentially what the Cavs gave up for Donovan Mitchell, and essentially what the Suns gave up for Kevin Durant. And we're talking Rudy Gobert. And Durant, Mitchell, Gobert is like what they got back. So kudos for the Jazz for pulling off the heist of a century.
I mean,
it's worked out for Minnesota, though. It has.
I mean, but how many defensive player of the years he got? Like 3?
3 or 4.
Three or four. So, like, to me, he was the perfect complement to Cat, because all Cat want to do is stand outside and shoot threes anyway. And so if you're going to play two bigs together like that, you need one dude that's a defensive dude and one dude who can stretch the stretch the floor. So, I mean, Rudy Gobert is a solid basketball player. Jazz got a lot, man. They always end up with them picks, man. He seemed like he'd be having picks forever.
They got to do some of those picks. Like, Utah's still not very good, and we keep saying that they're winning these trades, and they are. But at some point, you got to put this together and make a move in the West, and we'll see if Utah can do that or not. I agree with. I mean, I think Utah knocked it out of the park for this. Prior to last season, Minnesota's grade I think would have been a lot lower. I'm not a big Gobert guy. I probably would have given them probably a D prior to last season. I might give them a B minus now. I would not give them an A for this trade. I didn't love the pairing with Cat. It was better this year than it had been previously. So A+ for Utah is fine with me. I would probably say B- for Minnesota, and that's only because they had such a good year.
So help me out, because you said, that pairing was better this year than last year. How much of that, in your opinion, had to do with the huge step forward that Anthony Edwards took?
That certainly was a factor in just the overall play of the Timberwolves. And it's just a maturation process of, I mean, I thought you were going to take it back to Donovan and Darius, of just comfortability, experience, feeling it out. And Cat can shoot, which, or you could say, or Evan and Jarrett, here. Cat's a far better shooter than both of those guys in Cleveland, which helps it to work.
Yeah, because I guess the point I was making was more so on the Evan Mobley front. We are starting to see Anthony Edwards grow into this dog.
Oh yeah,
he's the alpha. It's his team.
You can see how him developing his game makes Minnesota so much better, and then the other players are able to play off each other more, etc. And if Evan Mobley, man, he can get to that level here, we're going to start seeing things open up, and things that used to be issues before, hopefully not be issues when it comes to style and fit anymore. So hopefully so.
Yeah, I'm not giving Minnesota an A- for that. I know he's helped. I know they reached the Western Conference Finals, but he's unplayable in crunch time of playoff games. I mean, I just go back to that Luka shot where Luka intentionally switched onto the 4-time Defensive Player of the Year. He's got 7 first-team All-NBA defenses. Where was he against Team USA in the championship game?
Yeah.
Relegated to the bench. When it matters, when it matters, Rudy Gobert can't be on the court, and you gave up a king's ransom for a guy
Yeah.
who certainly helps in the regular season. And you'd rather have Rudy Gobert than not have Rudy Gobert. But this dude cannot find himself in a meaningful crunch time five that actually can compete for a championship. And you traded the amount of assets for a guy that you want leading your team.
It wasn't even just the switch off. It was the step back off of one leg on him, too.
It was
ridiculous. And Jamal Crawford called it.
Yeah, but they hunt him out. It's not just Luka. There's never been a player with a resume like Rudy Gobert. 4 Defensive Player of the Years, 7 All-NBA, first-team defensive teams, who is as disrespected and disliked by the rest of the league than Rudy Gobert. It's a fascinating case. If you took his resume and blurred out his name and you gave it to a random basketball fan and said, is this guy a Hall of Famer? 100 of 100 times. That's a Hall of Fame resume? Is Rudy Gobert a Hall of Famer?
Nope.
Is Rudy Gobert a Hall of Famer?
No.
I don't even think he's close.
Not at all.
Makes no sense.
Although everybody gets into Basketball Hall of Fame. Everybody gets
Fair
in.
enough. Fair enough. All right, last trade, and then hopefully we'll get Aditi on here in a sec, was the Tyrese Haliburton for Domantas Sabonis trade. A rare star-for-star trade that seemingly worked out for both teams. The Bleacher Report gave both these guys an A. They did give the Pacers an A+. A trade that needed to happen for both players, at least the key players in this trade, to kind of unlock their full potential. And I think if you asked both to do it again, there'd be not an ounce of hesitation.
Yeah, I couldn't disagree. Both teams win this trade right here. I mean, you look at what the Sacramento Kings is building. They are absolutely fun to watch. You see Sabonis start to come into his own. Haliburton, he was in that backcourt with Fox. So he get free. He gets a change of scenery, and he gets a team of his own that he become the on-court general of. So I see nothing wrong here. I think this is one of those rare instances where both teams actually absolutely aced it.
Tristan puts it over the top for Indiana. I totally forgot.
He was part when I was making this graphic this morning. I was like, "Holy crap!"
Yeah, I totally forgot he was part of that deal. No, Earl, I agree with you. They had to split up Tyrese, or they felt like they had to split up Tyrese and De'Aaron Fox. They chose Fox, moved Tyrese. Domas has been exactly what the Kings needed, both, especially on the offensive side of the ball. He's the big in the middle. Mike Brown loves him. I spent time talking to Mike about Domas and what he means to that team. And just the pairing to him and De'Aaron, both teams knocked it out of the park and got exactly what they wanted.
Yeah, the Kings were irrelevant for like decades and decades, like 20 years of pure irrelevance.
Yeah.
They trade for Domas, and him and De'Aaron Fox turned into one of the best pick-and-roll pairings. In the entire NBA, they run their offense through Domas for the first 3 quarters, and they let De'Aaron Fox take over in the fourth. And in Indiana, whatever.
I got one for you.
Haliburton turns into an all-NBA caliber player, makes the Olympic team even as a 12th
Better
man.
than he ever would have been in Sacramento playing alongside you.
Their pick and roll, is it better than his dad's and Damian Stoudemire's?
Oh, boy.
Remember that one?
Different eras.
Yeah. His dad was cold.
Fox is better than Stoudemire, though. Stoudemire was good, but De'Aaron Fox is very good.
Yeah.
Dame was nasty.
I loved Damon Stoudemire when I was a kid. I don't know why. I loved
he
had like the Minnie Mouse tattoo.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Sabonis was a dog when he played for Portland, too.
They said he's Jokic is closer to Sabonis than he was to any player previously. Big Sabonis.
Yeah.
Arvidas.
Yeah.
And I just heard Ant say Aditi, which means he's checking her new system, and we are thrilled and fingers crossed that Aditi's
that it's working.
New technology is going to work. Any other trades? There was 5 more on the list as we wait for Aditi. We only made the graphics for 5.
What were the other 5? Do you remember?
I'll pull them up.
I'm trying. This is over how long? The last how many
decade.
years? The last decade. I mean, that's actually an impressive list. That both sides. Teams are getting pretty good at this trade thing, and
I'm
both
just glad
sides.
we was on the list.
Yeah,
I'm just glad to be on the list.
but when both sides, it's not. It feels like it's rare that both teams can get exactly what they want, and the deal works out for both sides. You always feel like you have one winner and one loser in these deals.
All right, next one.
But maybe they're getting better. Maybe teams are getting better at identifying needs and value.
And we'll do this real quick till we got Aditi. But the Lakers trading for Russell Westbrook. And 2 second-round picks for Kuzma, KCP, Montrezl Harrell, and a first-round pick. They gave the Lakers an F and the Wizards an A.
So we just got done talking about how both sides won. That is not
that was horrible.
Both sides won.
The Bulls trading for Vucevic. They gave up Wendell Carter Jr., Otto Porter, a first-round pick that turned into Franz Wagner, and a 2023 first. They gave the Bulls a D, a Magic an A.
Yeah.
The Sixers trade for James Harden.
I'm not a Harden.
Harden and Millsap for Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, and Ben Simmons, and a first-round pick. They gave both teams a D.
Yeah, I'm not a Harden guy, but they didn't really give up a ton.
They should have had that Jared Allen trade in there.
Well, Allen was part of the deal, not like
Yeah.
straight up. Aaron Gordon to the Nuggets. Aaron Gordon, Gary Clark for Gary Harris, R.J. Hampton, and a first-round pick. They gave the Nuggets an A+. They didn't even grade the Magic. And the last one was not a blockbuster. I don't even know why.
The Cavs won that Harden trade.
Yeah.
They
Cavs
did. That was a
easily-
different trade, right?
No, that was the same trade. They
No.
just highlighted that part of
No,
it, right?
no. They got him when he got traded to Brooklyn.
Right.
Not-
Right.
not
So I'm
from
saying
Brooklyn
that
to-
package should have been part of that 10-year, that last decade that they listed.
Oh, it should. Yeah, they should. They should
Yeah,
have
because the
done
Cavs,
that.
and nobody expected the Cavs to come out winners in that
he was a
particular
throw-in.
trade.
He was a throw-in.
He was, yeah. I mean, they got him for
Literally nothing.
a first-round pick,
Yeah,
right?
because Kenny Atkinson was pretty much forced to play DeAndre Jordan.
Not pretty much.
He was forced to.
Forced to play DeAndre Jordan, and he wanted to play Jared Allen, and he was overruled. And that's how Jared Allen ended up here. Now they're reunited, and it's a
Feels so
perfect
good.
love story. Yeah. It's,
Everybody got contracts this offseason. Everybody got a deal.
That's
except
right.
Tyvis.
That's right. Tyvis got his contract yesterday, didn't he?
Oh, he did say he signed his new
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Tyvis
Tyvis
just
got his
signed
contract
deal.
during the show.
Yeah, Tyvis got some money on him.
I don't have a contract. Actually, I do.
You got a contract?
I got a year and a half left. The Athletic.
Got a contract?
Till December.
Same. We free agents out here. But that's okay, though. The stats look good.
Start posturing.
Those stats look good, so we be all right.
And how's Aditi?
We have some freezing issues right now that I'm working with her on. Give me
Classic.
1 second. If you guys want to do the 2K ratings, we do have that ready for you, Mike, if you want to set
Yeah,
that up.
do a read. We'll do the 2K ratings.
All right, let me do a read real quick here for you guys. I want to remind everybody that if you're looking to buy tickets anywhere, anytime, Game Time is the best place to go do it. If you're out in Seattle and you want to see this Browns preseason game, the cheapest ticket right now is $14, and you can save up to 60% off by buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and everything else. The all-in pricing toggle on means you have no surprise fees at checkout. It's all right up front. You can get a panoramic view of your seat, and they have a low price guarantee, so Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you do find a cheaper ticket. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, just create your account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
All right. I am working at the same time. I'm trying to send Steve Becker the Canva so we can update this and clip it live as we go. But the NBA 2K ratings have come out. And just like we talk about Madden ratings, 2K ratings, for whatever reason, piss a lot of people off, Jason. And to me, I can't think of something less important than getting mad about a video game rating.
I totally agree.
And listen, I'm all for the off-season fodder. I'm all for getting mad online for no reason. I love reacting to dumb things, but
Like power rankings.
I like power rankings. For whatever reason, I like power rankings.
hate power
2K ratings, I just cannot wrap my mind around anyone giving a shit about what 2K rates these guys
I know a guy.
prior to the season.
I know the guy. I don't know if he was the guy or one of the guys who used to rate for the college football game back 15 years. I'm not going to say who it is. Worked in the Cleveland market previously, but they paid him obscene amounts of money, and all he had to do was go through there and just write down numbers of different guys. So that is a job. Like, they used to contract out that job and hire experts, I'll say, college football experts to do the college football rankings. I'm guessing NBA experts. I don't know how they do them now. That was back 15 years ago.
They lucky they ain't got me working for EA. Martin Emerson would have been a 99 every game.
So the reason people are mad about the Cavs 2K ratings, Jason, is Darius Garland was rated an 82. That is the 75th highest rated player in the NBA. And the list of guys who were also rated an 82, same as Darius Garland, include Dante DiVincenzo,
jeez.
Alex Caruso, Jalen Suggs, Jeremy Grant, Herb Jones, Jonas Valanciunas, and Ivanka Zubac of the Los Angeles Clippers. So these are all the players in NBA 2K rated an 82. And once again, this made people big mad online yesterday.
Really?
Big mad online. A couple YouTube clips saying disgraceful to how they graded and ranked Darius Garland. He's coming off a bad season, Jason. He was an 86 entering last year, dropped to an 82. Who gives a crap if it's an 82, 83? Look at the players that are equally rated to Darius Garland. Does he belong on that list, regardless of the number?
No.
Does he belong on that list?
No, he's better than all those players. Every single one of those players. He's better than every single guy on that list. He's probably an 85, 84. If he was an 86 last year, make him an 84 and 85 this year. Yes.
Evan Mobley at 86 this year.
Is he really?
And Jared Allen. And Donovan's at 93. Those are their four
Yeah.
highest rated players.
All right, that's fine. I mean, I might go 94, 95 on Donovan, but I have to see the list of who else they have in that category, but who cares?
It's more the grouping he's with. Earl, what do you think about Darius in terms of the grouping that he's listed with?
I mean, in real life, Darius is better than
Every
all of
player,
those dudes.
yes.
But if you look at the dismal of the season he had last year, regardless of why the season was the way it was, it is what it is. You know, like I've said this before, with the EA and the 2K ratings, man, you start off where you start off. He balls out this season, those ratings will go up. So.
Yeah.
And I think I'm getting a thumbs up from Anthony that we have Aditi Kinkhabwala ready to join us from her brand new setup with equipment that's working. What's up, Aditi?
It's not working.
It's not working.
Nope,
That's
there's no
so
sound, Ant.
frustrating.
Got no
I just
sound
went
from Aditi.
through this whole thing with a
Nope.
a whole brand new camera, brand new microphone, brand new mic, brand new IF whole thing, and then I try to connect. No, I was just on a 2-hour Zoom where everything was working. I apologize, guys.
It's okay. It's still good to see you. Mike can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Well-
I can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you.
See, I was totally going to
can
screw
hear
with her
me?
and say, Didi, I'm so sorry we can't hear you. But we can.
I guess
was just gonna mess with
I
you.
guess I'll ask you the first question. First of all, I started to text you this last Saturday. I thought you did a great job on the sideline with the Browns and Vikings game. And your interview with Deshaun Watson was amazing. I thought he was engaged. I thought he was entertained. It seemed like he really wanted to talk to you. And I was just curious because I knew you were going to be on. I was curious to know.
Right? Shocking.
Yeah. I was curious to know, in your opinion, what is the biggest difference about Deshaun Watson, the person, from that first interview 3 years ago in Jacksonville to the one that you did last Saturday on the sidelines in Cleveland Brown Stadium?
You know, I just think he's a lot more comfortable where he is, where life is, where he feels that he belongs as a Cleveland Brown. You could see that he's got a ton of excitement about the new freedoms he'll be given in this offense. In a lot of ways, he's not that different. But again, I just think that we're talking about a 2-year journey or time removed from what was, you know, sort of your initial introduction and everything that accompanied his entire signing, what his life had been those last few years, what all of that. This is such a dicey way to frame all of this, and I don't want to look like I'm coming down on either side of any of it. I just think that that's it. He is more comfortable right now. He is definitely very, very excited about this offense, and he's excited about who's in the wide receiver room with him. So you can get a sense of all of that. And I would hope that after he's been around me for 2 years now, he also feels more comfortable with me.
Didi, we had Bernie on yesterday, and I said there's all the talk about the new offense, and yes, I agree, 11 personnel and all that, but there's a part of me that feels like with the issues they have on the offensive line, we're still going to wind up in 12 and 13 personnel with Nick Harris and Michael Dunn on the field and extra blockers, extra tight ends, and it's going to revert, at some point, it's going to revert back to what it was. Am I crazy?
You're not crazy because, look, you have to protect your $230 million quarterback, don't you? And after all of the injuries last year, I think that that's very reasonable. But again, I think that this is not about a complete overhaul where you will never again see 12 and 13 and you will 95% of the time see a win. This is just about an augmented passing game. This is about having a few more choice routes, a few more options, a few more bits of quarterback freedoms. And it's kind of just what you would want to see of any offense is that you're not necessarily going away from what's made you good or what your roots are. You're just growing. You're just expanding a little bit more. And so especially early on. I mean, Jason, you make a great point, and this is sort of with our friend Ken Carmen. I had this argument on the radio where I was like, of course Deshaun Watson should play this weekend. He wants to play. I think it's important to get that first hit out of the way. It's important to see a live rush before it actually counts. But he was saying if there's not a healthy line, why would you put him out there? And so, that's very valid as well.
Aditi, do you think the starters, for the most part, will play against Seattle? I know we haven't seen many of them yet thus far this preseason, and Kevin Stefanski said Deshaun Watson will play. Deshaun said, I'm not so sure. Then Kevin kind of walked it back yesterday and said he'll play it day by day until they get to Seattle. So what do you expect to see from this Browns team?
You know what, Mikey?
Saturday?
I think that's all. We won't find out, actually, until we have our production meeting, which is usually Thursday, but now this week will be on Friday. I think that all of these factors have to go into it, right? So, I truly believe that Kevin Stefanski had every plan to play every starter that he could, minus maybe Joel Bitonio and Myles Garrett, on this during this third preseason game. But since then, he's lost every single tackle in the building. So I think that informs or affects or changes those decisions, and that's why you're just not locked into it. I do feel very confident in saying that Deshaun Watson wants to go out there, that Deshaun Watson does indeed want to play. But again, not up to him, so we'll see. I can't tell you. I think that Kevin Stefanski is a little bit more prudent than perhaps Deshaun Watson would have liked when it comes to the preseason. So I wouldn't be surprised if he says, you know what, we're just going to wait until week 1. The flip side is you want him to be there under center in the shotgun, whatever, getting the calls in. You want to get through the operation. We all saw what happened with Jerome Ford, who missed the preseason, and then the first time he gets hit, fumbles the ball. So you could argue it either way. I would play him, but again,
I'm with you. I think he should play.
So.
I think he needs to play.
I agree.
Yeah,
You can't go into Dallas without having him throwing a pass since Baltimore. It's
Agreed.
too much of a risk.
Yeah, did he?
And it's not only having thrown a pass, Jason, but it's like facing a live rush.
Right.
I mean, Micah Parsons is going to be coming at you.
Yes.
He hasn't seen a live rush since Baltimore.
Yeah.
And that I know that there were joint practices with Minnesota and that they were very engaged, but come on. That's not the same as seeing a live rush under the lights in a game.
Right.
I guess you're answering the next question for me, because we talked about earlier before you came on that the lack of continuity with these starters for the Cleveland Browns that's been on display since OTAs. How does that make you, does that make you worried that they probably won't hit the ground running come the start of the regular season?
I mean, I don't like it. Of course, if I'm a Cleveland Browns fan, I'd like the alternative. If I'm Kevin Stefanski, I'd much rather that everybody's out there and healthy and repping reps together next to each other. But I mean, this is the reality of the National Football League and the way that you see teams, so many coaches around the leagues play or barely play their starters. That's just what it is. Ever since the preseason has changed into this, has morphed into this, the first month of the season is always a little bit sloppy, a little bit rusty. So I don't know. I don't think it's as jarring. I don't think it's as singularly unique to the Browns as it is really truly just a sign of the times.
Does Jed Wills need a full knee replacement? What is going on? How have we – this is 9 months in, and Jed is still nowhere to be found.
I don't – Jason, you probably know that better than me. Truly. This is why – it's funny. I was just talking to a PR guy of another team yesterday, and I was saying that I am out of the business of breaking – injury news or transactional news, and I kind of love it.
Yeah.
And if I knew the answer, then I would certainly share it, but I don't know the answer, and to be perfectly honest with you, I have not gone up to anybody and said, what is the actual real story on
How big of a concern is this, though, in terms of trying to replace him? And, you got Dallas coming to town in less than 3 weeks now, and you don't know who your tackles are at this point.
It's very valid, and I definitely wondered, okay, well, you think so much of DeJuan Jones, and there is an expectation that Jack Conklin will be back, so why not at least rep DeJuan a little bit on the left side, see if his body will move that way? And I was told that those movements are just so different, and while some people can go on both sides and have gone on both sides, that's just not something that they want to do with DeJuan Jones.
Yeah.
So I don't know. P.S. By the way, he is an enormous human being.
Massive. Massive.
Enormous.
He makes football players look small.
Yes, exactly. And it's funny because somebody tweeted a photo of me interviewing him week 1 and was just like, wow, he makes Aditi look small. And I was like, P.S. He makes everyone look small.
It's like Aaron Judge and Jose Altuve. You and DeJuan Jones.
He's also an incredible dancer, too.
Basically.
Did you see that video of him
He's-
dancing?
No.
I'll send you the video. of
Is
him
he
dancing.
really? Does he have rhythm?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Aditi, real quick.
Based on his
But
dancing, he
you know
could play
what?
left
Wait,
tackle.
but really quickly, he's supposed to be an outstanding basketball player too.
He was
Yeah.
all
He
state.
legit can dribble, and it's not just like big man basketball. Like the man can dribble like a point guard.
Yeah. Yeah. Based on his dancing, he could for sure play left tackle.
I'm gonna find the link and I'll send you the link, Aditi. Aditi, from your up close and personal experience of the sideline of these first 2 preseason games, who's a guy who has stood out to you in terms of maybe an unknown, under the radar guy who has made a real impression so far?
That's an interesting one. I think it's too hard. You know what? I'll just be honest. I think it's a little bit hard to tell in the preseason because there's a lot of veterans that are kind of just with themselves. If you give me a minute, I'll think. Jameis Winston is the guy that I've enjoyed watch the tablet with the younger quarterbacks. Like I've seen Jameis and Scoop last week. DTR was the guy that was out there, and Jameis and Scoop sat next to each other, kind of watching the tablet and reviewing things. And I appreciated that even though Scoop, I'm calling him Snoop, Tyler Huntley, even though he wasn't out there, they both were kind of learning or teaching or what call it with each other to prepare for when Tyler Huntley would be out there. Who else? MJ Emerson is always a guy who's very, very engaged with the cornerbacks, talking to the cornerbacks. That whole group, really, Grant Delpit, that entire secondary, the veterans don't go off and kind of do their own thing. They talk to the younger guys. They talk to the guys that are playing. They talk amongst each other. I like seeing that. Nick Chubb and David Njoku are like buddies. I didn't realize that. And how about that? Can we just talk about I know this isn't under the radar, but Nick Chubb is smiling on a regular
that was
basis.
crazy.
Yeah, you had him smiling
You had
in
him
the rain.
laughing.
That was
Aditi.
crazy.
That was like, give you an Emmy right there for
I
that.
mean, he was laughing out loud, and then I got the giggles. And you know what was funny? So I met him for the first time 5 years ago, of course, and I interviewed him right after he scored his first touchdown in the NFL, which was a preseason touchdown. It was against, I believe, the Bills. And I have a picture of it, and I was showing him that picture. And I said to him, I remember that I said to him after he'd scored that touchdown and I was interviewing him post-game, I'd said to him, you are allowed to smile right now. And he is not my thing. And he was laughing because he remembered that. And that's actually what we were laughing about when Chris Rose talked to us, is that he makes it so hard to get a laugh out of him, but he's actually got this beautiful smile, these beautiful teeth. He must have had braces at some point. It's just, his whole face lights up when he smiles. We just need to find another person to make him laugh, because it used to be Kareem Hunt.
Well, Aditi, maybe it's DeJuan Jones because we found the dance video. So, Ann, if you want to play it. Aditi, this is DeJuan Jones dancing.
Oh, get out. How can a man that big move like that?
Tell me he can't play left tackle.
I would at least want to try it. I mean, okay, I just so you all know, I don't have moves like that.
Oh, I don't
Man
either.
can do it.
I look like
Whoa.
I'm having a seizure on broken
I
ankles
wish
when
I
I'm
had seen
dancing.
that. I would have asked him to dance on the sideline for us.
Ask him in Seattle.
I don't know if he can
I mean,
dance
I
in
could,
cleats.
yeah, technically.
Aditi,
Dancing
one of the great conversations you had over the weekend was with Jock, and he talked about the responsibility that comes with the contract extension that he just received. What's your expectations of him going into year 2 playing under Jim Short's scheme?
I think he had a monster year a year ago, and I just want to see him build off of that. I mean, he has really settled into how he takes care of his body. He's a vegan, obviously, and has really acclimated to that, what is best for him. He's got a lot of confidence. He expects to be out there for every down. And I love, this is just a really, really worldly man in a lot of ways. He went to a half dozen African countries this summer. It's so important to him to do work, not only in America, do community work, not only in Ghana, and strongly about his heritage, his traditions. And I really appreciated that in the contract, he's saying, yes, it means the world when a team wants to commit to you and a team feels that way about you. But also that he feels that now there is indeed more responsibility to him to be an even better teammate, to be an even better man, to justify the money that he was given, not just that, okay, well, now I've gotten it, I'm good. That's not it. Now I've gotten it, more is expected of me. I'll say one little interesting nugget. I hope I'm allowed to say this and I don't get in trouble. But anyway, he was really great about how he learned so much from Andrew Barry through the negotiation process. And he was really giving Andrew Barry a lot of kudos for how AB would talk to him and say to him, this is what I feel as a human being, but these are the parameters of business. And this is what I can do within the business framework. And this is why this shouldn't be a reflection of what I think of you as a person, and kind of was very, very frank and open and talked that out. And so I went back to AB at one point and I said to him, JOK was really great in talking about how much you taught him about the negotiation process. And then it kind of turned into this conversation. Is that really unusual that a player would be that involved, that it wouldn't just go straight through the agent? And I said, I'm very hyper emotional, so it's good that I have an agent and I'm not the one talking to the TV executives. Let them say it to my agent and he can filter it to me. And AB said it's somewhat unusual. He said quarterbacks usually take a lot of interest in what their deal is, but JOK is, that kind of a guy, very intellectual, very curious. He was involved. And then AB said he might have gotten a little bit more money because of the way he was so engaged.
That is awesome.
Because if you choose, at the end of the day,
we got 2 minutes left. That's a great story.
Fight for yourself as hard as you'll fight for yourself. Go ahead.
No, great story. We got 2 minutes left. Real quick, we started today's show with the social media rumors that CeeDee Lamb might be flirting on Instagram with some of the Browns. Would you put any credence into any of that, or is there a 0.0% chance CeeDee Lamb?
No.
Thank you.
No. The Browns really like their wide receiver room. They like their wide receiver room. I don't understand can you just be excited about the people that are in the room and say, no, they need Lamb. Come on, be excited about the guys in the room.
I mean, CeeDee Lamb is an upgrade. Let's just call a spade a spade. I like the Browns receiving room too, but I would love CeeDee Lamb if that was part of it.
Aditi, he might not be a Cleveland Brown in real life, but by the time I get off work and I get to my PlayStation 5, CeeDee Lamb will be playing in the brown and orange. I can guarantee you that one.
I think she's frozen.
Oh, I think she froze up right at the end.
Well, that was Aditi Kinkhabwala. She'll be on the call for the Seahawks-Browns preseason finale this Saturday. Aditi, thank you as always. Always appreciate her insight, and she does do a great job in those sideline interviews. You don't usually get a lot out of them. I think Aditi's one of the very, very few who actually get something out of those sideline interviews and provide some insight into the game and the players she's talking to that most people just can't capture. It's a much harder job than it looks like, by the way.
Yeah.
Way harder.
It's great when they let her finish the stories.
Yeah. As far as the receiver room.
Is that shot at me?
No, not at all.
Because I thought she was done.
No. That actually was not a shot at you at all.
I thought it froze. I thought she was done, but it just froze.
No.
It's hard to tell.
He went Kendrick Lamar on you.
No.
I would never cut off Aditi if she was still talking.
I wouldn't let you cut off Aditi if she was still talking.
No. Well, you did once too, because it clicks, and when you're out here, you don't know. That's the issue with these remote interviews.
That actually that's funny. That had nothing to do with you.
That was hilarious, though.
That had nothing to do with you.
Pure coincidence.
Jason, this is twice today. Jason just stabbed me in the back. This is a really fun show, too. This is a really fun panel. I enjoyed an hour and 58 minutes of this, and then the minute Jason just took me to the curb, stabbed me in the back,
I
dragged me out.
I swear to you that had nothing to do with you.
And you want to do a 2K conversation in overtime?
We'll finish it up for overtime. That's fine. I'm working with Aditi right now. We're trying to figure out the freezing issues. We're not quite sure what's going on.
Hey, real quick, we got like 20 minutes before we close. A lot of kids are getting ready to go back to school, and I just want to wish all your children a safe and prosperous school year this year.
There you go.
Peace.